Welcome back, everyone. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. Back again for another segment. To briefly touch upon updates with the Mystery School. The products page is back up on the website, and everything that was made available before is made available again. The Nectar of Athanasia, Thunder God Root Vine, the Apothecary, things in terms of the merch line to promote the works of Black Earth Productions, and the alignment of the legacy to which all of this represents. Definitely encourage everybody out there that has not taken initiation into the Mystery School at this point to get a hold of me directly at Black Earth Productions with an S at hotmail.com. Other services are made available. And in terms of everything with the Mystery School, this is always one-on-one with the individual with me in terms of actual mentorship into the occult. Today in this segment, I'm going to take things a little bit deeper in terms of magic, and it's going to be centered around the concept of what the Hamrammir is in terms of Ulfidnar training. If you've done the level 1 apprentice, full rights initiation into the Mystery School, and have not yet done Ulfidnar training with me, certain things in this segment may not make sense, but at the same time, it's meant to encourage you to go deeper and further in terms of your own personal practice. And as far as the techniques that I'm going to be presenting in this segment, it is unto your own discretion. It is at your own risk. The exercises here therein are not a substitute for the advice or treatment of an actual legitimate health practitioner when it comes to physical medicine. Again, I am a surgeon of the soul. I am a surgeon of the mind. When it comes to physical things in context, there are things going to be coming forth in the future touching upon this. And furthermore, it's to note that I will not be held responsible for any consequence that may or may not occur in context of anything that I present on this platform, and especially when it comes to the disclaimer that is in the Black Earth Library. There's a certain protocol and a certain code and standard that is required in terms of the practitioner that is initiated into this Mystery School. We're about honor, we are about integrity, we're about alignment, and we are about doing what is right, regardless of the consequences. And you alone are responsible for the execution of the techniques in your own life, let alone what could be potentially added to your practice in terms of what I'm going to get into with this segment. Again, you are all responsible for your own condition, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually speaking. And in terms of this, it is to note that in the Great North, there are still individuals that have such power through magic in terms of evocation and ritual. They are confident that they know what every person in the earth is doing, the gauge of their perception, in terms of the gauge of what they can see. Again, getting that 360-degree view within the fulcrum of the circle of the magician. It is to note that the circle of the magician is best approached gauging things when it comes to nature and the universe like a fucking hurricane. You within the eye of the fulcrum of the storm. Otherwise, that's when you get pulled out in terms of attacks on the psyche, which have been unbelievably relentless this year in 2023. So to bring things forward, to bring things to another level in terms of what I personally practice, the evocation that we can draw upon the great whales, the record keepers, out of the sea, within the ether, upon the shore of consciousness, if embraced, are accustomed with scrolls and ribbon code scripts that allow us to perform our practice with ease, among many other things in terms of the mythos, also throughout the liturgy expressed by those throughout the ages in context. What I'm going to be getting into is the concept of Thunderbolt magic, which despite its name has little to do with actual electrical discharges from the sky, but rather that it can be carried out lightning fast. And yet, or precisely because of this, it is an effective means to uncompromisingly assert the interests of the magician in alignment and context to protocol and how we operate here with the Mystery School. Nevertheless, the well-known lightning in the sky plays a not unimportant role in the naming of what I'm getting at. As usual in the ice magic framework, it's a water magic. You have to concentrate on the essentials. Again, it's all about focus. It's all about what you set forth as intention within the fulcrum of the circle of the magician. And in no way do these approaches call for the negligence or suggest the impression that magic can be allowed to degenerate into some sideline pastime. Okay, it's the opposite in terms of actual practice. It's a part of our lives. And there's many different forms of magic. And thunderbolt magic, lightning magic, is a highly demanding area that every practitioner in context is responsible for themselves. Then solidarity with those able to be involved with this process, shoulder on shoulder. We must be willing to smash our own limited perceptions of reality and allow reality to reveal the truth to us. Yes, there's things that you know, but there's a shit ton of shit that you still don't know. And this is all meant to set forth a measuring mechanism and context of what we are approaching. Without the eclipsed soul spark being a factor in terms of how you process shit to the gauge of your perception, again, know thyself, and other transfigurations in alignment with truth lead to a kind of magic that is only going to be measured by its efficiency by other management strategies generated. Only the effect, in terms of its cause that occurs, can prove that magic is practiced here, with a claim of functionality, and no magic of symbolism and its constantly repeating process in terms of observation. I'm talking about actual experience, living magic with maximum linear consequence. In this sense also means working in such a way that neither embellishments, conditions, or other necessities play a role. It may be obvious that we are returning to the original form of magic. This is what I've been talking about, taking things back to the original teaching. Since the first magicians obviously generated their techniques in terms of survival, after all, these were always challenges in terms of our realm here, in terms of the occult history and all this different kind of fucking stuff, just to skip forward even to our present hour now. It's not to negate survival, it's to master survival, so that you come into a place of thriving. And despite all of the challenges of whatever individual or group or nation or people or fucking world, I don't give a fuck. There's no room for games and fucking bullshit when it comes to this, because when you approach this in a way that is not in alignment, it can seriously fuck you up. And the last thing I want is harm to come to anybody. Again, we are not in the practice of summoning, incantation, invocation, or conjuring of lesser entities in terms of magic to get any sort of assistance whatsoever. Our connection to nature and the universe is key. Our connection to our core essence, our true core intelligence, and the higher force is key. And see, a lot of what is out there in context when it comes to quote-unquote magic, it hasn't changed in terms of what I just warned about, in terms of what I warned against. And that's the difference, apart from the conditions that have been met for survival in our day and age, in addition to the ever-increasing inability of individuals to master their reality, to master their thought and emotion, first of all, to master the gauge of their perception and alignment from a place of observation, instead of continuing to indulge in all of these non-coping strategies that just wear you the fuck out over time and deceive more than they are actually useful. And this is what makes Thunderbolt lightning magic an absolutely socially critical work in terms of our practice here at Black Earth Productions. And on a closer inspection, if we're still dealing with the same challenges in terms of basic fundamentals and principles, then you're never going to get to the level of what I'm going to be getting at in this segment. You got to go back, you got to take initiation, you got to do all these things to lay the proper foundation. And that's what I encourage for the listener in terms of this. I'm only sharing this as an inspiration to get things going in a certain way so that you do hit me up, so that we do get into things one-on-one. Because the way that this is going to work for you is not the same way it's going to work for me, is not the same way it's going to work for any other individual out there. Again, personal path, work trajectory, the organic path, the alignment of your templating. Everything else only comes in, guys, in terms of the realm of effect that is not going to get you to the level necessary in order to master this existence and rise above these triangulation factors that continue to plague the mind on an unconscious, subconscious level. And in context to what Thunderbolt magic actually is in terms of Ulfadnar training, this is everything to do with what the Hamrammir is. So again, if we're still dealing with the same challenges and principle, you only put on a guise that is better at concealing a quote-unquote predatory aspect. Again, it goes back to intention here. If you pick this up and you approach it with the wrong intention, it will ostensibly fuck you up. This is nothing to fuck with. But if you approach it the right way, it will become a formidable weapon in your fucking arsenal to clear the path when necessary. And this is what I've been doing in Ritual for pretty much the last 3.5 weeks straight. And I've been prompted now to bring it forth in terms of the results that I've been able to cultivate in terms of my personal practice, to share it with you now in terms of overflow. And see, we as individuals face a multitude of challenges in terms of life. We as magicians face a multitude of fucking challenges. And approaching this efficiently and functionally, also in the magical realm, is the purpose of this segment, to address these things. And the fact that the Hamrammir works completely without ritual, but instead works with basic strategies of effective survival without offering the magician further useless divisionary strategies that come in the guise of quote-unquote high magic. And that's all that other bullshit out there. That's what the New Age fucking teaches. That's what organized occultism fucking teaches. The philosophy here at Black Earth Productions is nothing to do with useless divisionary strategies that come in any sort of fucking guise. Those that apply these fundamentals and principles to their lives get the results. And every single person I've been talking to, especially this month already, giving me their reports, have gotten the results in terms of practice. And a lot of them are still just getting started. Again, working with the basic fundamentals and principles to lay the proper foundation, knowing the templating, all of these different things. Again, you cannot wield magic correctly unless you know thyself. Why do you think the way you think? Why do you feel the way you feel? Why do you react and respond the way that you do? Are you easily manipulated? Or are you actually able to think? Are you able to stop yourself and observe why you're being a certain way? And see, that's the key. And if the Hamrammir and context here is divided into theory and practice, it's only going to provide an overview of what I'm getting at. I'm talking about actual practice. I'm talking about actual results. And these two parts are by no means to be misunderstood as independent of one another, but each coincide. It's not just book knowledge here. It's actual fucking experience that you're going to want to gain in context to everything when it comes to practice. So when I speak of functionality, we also have to deal with minimalist methods here in context, which leave out everything that is unnecessary in order to get to the true core of a thing. Okay, there's a lot of magical currents out there. Again, everything is energy. And there's a lot of different ways to throw energy, frequency, vibration. And knowing how to do this correctly is by no means common. Yet these are things that were known by the ancients. These are things that were known by the ancestors in terms of a certain strategy when things would happen. That at certain times, specific things would have to be discarded as proven useless to a particular situation. You have to know when, and you have to know when to discern, to discard certain things and apply certain things. Otherwise, we would all be where we want to be right now. We would all be experiencing everything that we would want to be experiencing on the level, but we're not on the level. And in all of our approaches that have not led us anywhere, the reason you're not getting results is because you're not approaching any of this the right fucking way. And despite all of the instruction, despite all of the protocol explained, you want to go and point shit and blame anybody else except yourself. You're the one that has the problem here. And it's okay to admit that to yourself. That's what being mature is all about. I don't have time to baby anyone here. All you fucking snowflakes can get the fuck out of the fucking temple. This platform is for the spiritually mature or those that are seeking to be spiritually mature. And even though you're able to show certain problem areas that you're dealing with as an individual, this by no means is intended to necessarily even be solved here. You're the one that's going to have to solve it. I'm here to assist that process. But once you gain victory in your own life, once you get the mechanism going on a certain level and you start getting results, the issues are going to be solved. And rather, our concentration should be aimed at all of these things in order to be able to gain the entire developmental potential of whatever problems we are facing, to face them and overcome all of the fear and really and really get at all of this bullshit once and for all and stop surrendering to decay, stop surrendering to chaos, stop surrendering to indifference, stop surrendering to these things. Stop surrendering to the indifference of your own fucking soul that is working to get your attention, that is that pain working to get your attention. One of the first things that I should state here is that the human being, the term human being, means the magician. We are co-creators in alignment with nature and the universe. What the fuck else are we here other than being fucking slaves to the indifference and all this other fucking bullshit, the fucking propaganda and mind control? That's what happens. You're conditioned away from your ability, and you're not willing to confront the wiring of the fucking profile out of the fucking problems, but rather we should bring a maximum distance between ourselves and this fucking bullshit. Seeing it for what it is, not throwing ourselves into the mix of it, thinking that by jumping into the fucking abyss, that's what's going to get you the fuck out of it. No, we're meant to bridge the abyss and seal off the fucking rift, which in this figurative sense is always going to mark those types of individuals as prey for the fucking parasite. Magic that is so often the case, practiced in order to escape problems, meaning not have to face them in the first place, means a reinforcement of one's own inability to actually wield magic correctly. You think that by avoiding problems and avoiding conflict and avoiding the hard shit that you got to do to rise the fuck up is how you're going to wield magic? No, it's the exact opposite in context. True high magic, true ability is not given to cowards. It cannot be trusted with those that allow fear to rule them. And only if you face something can it actually be solved. Flight is an option that's always offered to the prey. Look at nature. Look at nature itself. That which turns and runs away from that which is pursuing it in context is not the hunter, but the fucking hunted. And that's exactly what the goddamn fucking parasite is doing. It's hunting your ass the fuck down because you're not willing to turn around and confront and face it and face fucking reality for what the fuck it is. And there's no elitist embellishment behind these principles and fundamentals I'm getting at here. Okay? But a very clear and above all, tough reality and tough love that I'm bringing forward as a man that embodies the true divine masculine force here in this fucking realm. You can take all your mamby-pamby shit out the fucking temple. I don't give a fuck because we don't got time for that. And if magic is to become a survival strategy, which it is first and foremost, and no longer indulge into non-coping strategies, like I was saying, and philosophical administrative concepts for one's own fears and terms. Being at the table of philosophy is necessary in order to go over these theories, in order to make the correlations, in order to see these things for what they are. But when it comes to actual practice, you have to use what is useful and discard what is not useful. That's why you put everything on the table and make an assessment to make the correlations. When it comes to studying research, when it comes to all of these different things, no matter what you're observing, it all correlates the same principle in context. See how the dots connect, see what's standing in the way of making the dots connect. So if you're looking for instructions on how to fuck someone up because of your own psychological projections and hangups and fears and all this different kind of stuff, you're going to have to go find that bullshit elsewhere because that ain't happening here. And good luck with that because eventually you're going to be devoured by it. Just like Michael Tessarion states, evil contains within it the seed of its own destruction. You try to fuck with our kind, you try to come at us, all of this different kind of stuff, it's just going to come back on you tenfold. And it doesn't make you capable of actually practicing magic at the same time. It doesn't make you powerful. It doesn't make you better. It only reveals who you are, that you're a fucking coward. And the natural recourse of cause and effect is going to have its fucking own way in terms of manifestation. Like I said before, we don't even have to lift the fucking finger against these fucks if we just stand our ground and continue to inform and not allow this bullshit to get the best of us in terms of our state of mind and our state of being. We have to be able to relax into and hold true and breathe out and wield and throw energy correctly within the circle, the magician, not to go out of your way and try to find some goddamn fucking escape route from reality. That is why the world is in the condition that it is. First of all, because people don't care about this kind of fucking shit. Second of all, they're working to escape. All you care about is food, shelter, sex, and escapism, motherfuckers. That's all you've been conditioned to give a fuck about. And see, magic in context was always a commodity of those that know how to rule themselves, that know how to rule their domains, and always protected them as an instrument of power to put pressure on other social situations that come into fuck with the birthrights in context, and thus continue to ensure their own survival first and foremost, let alone the expansion and thriving in alignment, and also order to ensure the manifestation of what they need to move, live, and have their being. Our rights to life, our rights to existence here. That taken to an extreme, of course, is how dark sorcery operates in context of these arts and sciences being inverted and twisted and used against us, because we've been cut off from our roots, we've been cut off from our ancestors, we've been cut off from proper knowledge and wisdom in context. And magic has lost its true character. And see, magic has lost its character. It lost its true purpose a long time ago, but that's what we are here to restore. That's a part of this healing process that we're still all going through in terms of what's going to be unfolding going into 2025 and 2028. In order to approach things correctly and claim the power of the original teaching. This is sacred knowledge that I'm sharing with you here. This is not to be trifled with, but to be seen and heard as an opportunity to bring transformation to your life and to your own practice as an individual. This is meant for everyone that is willing to approach it the correct way. And you will be tested. You will be vetted in terms with the higher force. This is what it means to be held accountable, not only by me in terms of mentorship, but anybody else that gets it. This is what community is truly all about, so that we can come into a place of thriving, mastering survival and manifestation. And even if it is the case that the individual doesn't want to encounter actual quote-unquote power that would force them to get up from their false comfort zone and actually challenge them, which is going to force them to grow, which is going to force them to stack and burn this fucking bullshit the fuck out that's holding them the fuck back, as a scroll of fucking excuses that individuals roll out every single fucking day to not rise the fuck up, and only puts it off as a confession to some fucking priest or whatever the fuck. And it's not actually fucking real. You're not going to get off scot-free here. That's not how this works. That's not how cosmic law operates. And see, this is what happened during the schism of the betrayals that happened in terms of the brotherhoods and sisterhoods. All of this fucking overt entitlement and motherfuckers on the take, ripping people away from their fucking roots in order to feast upon the soul essence of the fucking populace of the fucking earth, because they can't connect back to the higher. They're not going to do what the fuck is necessary. They are parasitized. They are fucking ridden. And they don't give a fuck about you. And most of you can't even see it because you're eating shit fucking food and your calcified pineal gland and your heart center is fucking hardened. It's all of the walls of indifference that have thrown you into a place of isolation and indifference with nature and reality, let alone others in terms of actual community. I will forever stand for the individual. It is all of us as individuals that need to come to know who the fuck we are. But what the fuck is the fucking point of doing all this fucking work if we can't make connection to other people that are doing the same thing? So that we can expand and grow and connect the right fucking way and come to a place of co-creation with other people. Unity consciousness is key. And everything in terms of consciousness from my current observations are coming to a certain head peak transition. Whether this is personal or coming from my objective observations, we must realize that there is a much lower force which has set itself against all of us and does not want us to rise. I've stated that there are certain things that are not going to serve us now in these moments forward in the world. All of this shit to the divide and conquer continues to play out because of it, and because most are not willing to accept reality in terms. They get pulled into fear and into the psychic warfare that's been off the fucking charts at the same time. It's an indication that things definitely are going to the next levels. Okay? Don't negate what has happened and taken place the past few years. None of us are to allow this overt takeover of our beingness. We are all at a very important point in terms of the ancient future. And it is critical that we hone in on the principle of unity consciousness first within ourselves and with others, And I always do my best to be operating like this. But when it's not met with respect, what the fuck else can you do except stand your ground? And see, I'm going to become more ruthless when it comes to certain things, regardless of anything. And it's going to become important, as it always is, to master our thoughts and emotional capacities in terms of true intelligence in order to take things forward and away from that which sucks this shit into the abyss, and focus in terms of manifestation and alignment to what is truly right and truly good. And when all of this bullshit does come to fuck with that, if you don't strike against it in terms of honor with the Hamrammir in context, it's going to reveal who you and other people really are at that point. And if you're someone that's doing that, then fuck you. No, things can change. Things can get better. And it takes healing to get there. And when it hurts, it's wisdom working to get your attention. And again, without accountability, things won't change. They only get worse to compromised bullshit. I do what I can every single day to live this unto myself and with others otherwise. And when shit comes up, that's the opportunity to apply the principles in context, not to run away from conflict or indifference or misunderstanding, but to overcome those things with courage. It's only cowards that act like that otherwise. And that's also why we study and apply these principles and how they work for us as individuals unto our templating. And the wiser that I have become, the more I realize that there is still so much that I don't know that aligns even deeper to what I do know. And a lot of the challenges that I'm currently experiencing are overtly bringing things up to cloud the vision to a skewed perception that wants to try and convince me that all of this is in vain with the platform, which is absolute and total fucking bullshit. Absolute and total fucking bullshit. Where the hell is that coming from? It ain't coming from my soul. It's not coming from a place of true intelligence. And to certain cross streams, I can gauge also too that the hopelessness that a lot of individuals out there gotta be fucking dealing with. What the fuck is up with you guys? You do not know how psychic I am. And I know things are hard. And this world will fuck you up if you let it. And even when things are going good, shit's still hard. And for whatever reason, it seems to continue to get hard, but that's what we need as humans in order to grow into greater levels of maturity and fortitude. I see the confusion and stagnation with the mundane world choking the life out of people all the fucking time. It wants to choke you the fuck out. There's still so much more potential than we could possibly imagine if the mind could just correct the fuck out of itself. And that's the whole purpose. Again, to mastering the first cosmic law, which is meant to bring forth that belief in oneself. And fighting past your bullshit is the key every single day, every single moment. And behind every great king that is good stands a nation. And behind every great nation stands the heart of its people. And it's the condition of our hearts that do matter. And it does matter that they are in alignment with what is right and good, not saturated with fear and trepidation and lies and bullshit that turn people into the dark hearts to be devoured by Amit at the fucking scales. I have warned and warned to my own volition because I do actually give a fuck. And even when sometimes I don't want to be dealing with the pressure to not, because of the willful fucking idiocy in the world, I'm still compelled and reminded of where that comes from. And it does not come from the ignited heart of the human soul. It does not come from our spirits as individuals, and it does not come from a sound mind. I know what's on the other side of this bullshit, and that's why I fight and rant and share the things that I do, and I know them to be true. These things are not some subjective points of view, and no matter the challenge, it's worth it, everyone. It's worth it to go through the trials. It's worth it to go through all of this fucking shit that we are. And it's a far more value than what people are conditioned to settle for in life because of skewed perceptions. I will never relent, and I will continue to be ruthless as fuck to the vision that I've been given. We don't get the option of giving up here. And it's the vision of a people who are ignited and on fire as individuals, who are abundant in the face of that which wants to tear away what rightfully belongs to us, which is within our blood, which is within our bones. And we must continue to claim all of it each and every single day. each and every single moment, as long as we draw breath into our ships in terms of who we are on Earth. And going back to the betrayals that took place, and this is all that schism fucking bullshit. Literally everything happening in our world right now, the crux of everything all goes back to Kemet. All of it. I can wrap it up in one fucking word. Kemet. In terms of the ancient wisdom councils and the betrayals that took place against them were the ones that wanted to be the gods. That is who humanity, all of us, are up against. But no, you're more concerned about who the fuck is playing over the fucking weekend in terms of sport or fucking whatever. That's what you value more. You value the bread and circuses more. And then you wonder why? They're all just fucking laughing at your asses. And as soon as things arise that do not appear immediately to be understood by the average individual or can't be easily integrated into one's own worldview, it makes sense why. Because once the truth reveals itself, it's going to completely destroy that paradigm that you have been conditioned to as an individual. It will completely and totally fucking eradicate it. And thank the gods for your nervous breakdown and context, because that is going to liberate you from what it means to be a fucking goddamn slave. So whatever speaker out there, me, anybody else in my networks, or whoever the fuck, if they're accused of anything, the ones that are making the effort to inform other people of the fucking actual truth, is to bear in question within your mind why we are even doing this. It's because we know the goddamn fucking difference. And with that, we're going to take a break. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. I'll be right back after the break. And we're back from the break now. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. Now to continue with the segment. Nothing else will compel any of us. And all of us can back it up. So that's what we will continue to do. And not wanting to make any effort in terms of that is only going to put you in a position to take in what is effortless as one of the many quote-unquote strategies to avoid not using real magic to actually get in touch, with the true essence of who you are as an individual. A lot of this shit out there, whatever group dynamics are going on, it's just meeting places for people to avoid magic altogether. They're avoiding it. Instead, preference is giving to the bobbing around in various fucking pipe dream fucking fantasyland fucking bullshit. That's all that cosplay crap. It plays upon the codes. You're not meeting together to do actual fucking magic or learn magic or the occult or any of that. You're actually gathering in terms of those places to avoid it altogether in terms of a pretense and mocking yourselves against it to condition you against it. So if you want to take a closer look at yourself, which you should do with regard, recognizing your own avoidance strategies, that powerlessness in terms of quote-unquote administrative concepts and non-coping approaches, that ain't gonna fucking get you there. All of this becomes very, very clear, relatively speaking, quickly, if you go so far as to see magic for what it actually is, a fucking survival tool, first and foremost. Second, it's to come into a place of thriving as you advance in terms of your actual practice. And this is what I learned in the wilds. This is what I learned in terms of my own rites of initiation. When I was brought out into realms beyond what anybody's fucking mind can comprehend. It's not to compare or contrast. I just do not believe that anybody out there has actually experienced what I have. And it's my own subjective experience. It's mine. It belongs to me. That's why I don't talk about the depths of what the fuck happened. I only allude to it because what you need as an individual is your own experience in terms of the wilderness rites, where you're pulled out into the fucking wilds and ripped and torn to fucking shreds by all the fucking beasts that would devour you. And the only thing that is left is the true essence of who the fuck you are, because you cannot be fucking destroyed. Everything that is not you fucking dies. And that's what you're all afraid of. How far could you survive without authentic magic, especially in terms of the Hamrammir and the war that we are in right now? What's it going to take to get your attention? And see, you can't rely on any embellishments. You can't rely on any sort of conditions or even any quote-unquote magical tools or wait for planet XY to be in the position of AZ or whatever the fuck. All of that's relevant in terms of templating and transits and context to how certain energies are moving. But that's not the ultimate fucking recourse of what we're wielding here. A lot of that shit is just excuses that pull you into all of these fucking problems, and you don't see it for what the fuck it is, an opportunity to apply what is necessary in terms of actual fucking practice when this shit comes up. It's your condition. You're conditioned to it. It's to see the alignment and transits and all this different kind of stuff, again, as an opportunity to discard the embellishment, because you can't rely upon that shit when it comes down to brass tacks, especially in terms of hyperdimensional warfare. And all of the theoretical fucking bullshit discussions that people are having all across the board that don't actually bring real fucking results otherwise, talking out your fucking asses. What actually works? Those are the things that I want to talk about, and those are the things that I do discuss with people in terms of one-on-one mentorship. We rarely have to deal with such fundamental problems as obtaining food or dealing with all of these adverse weather conditions. One should put one's magical practice under this banner in order to attune oneself to truly functional work. If you can't do it in terms of certain fucking conditions that do not bring you comfort, that do not bring you the bare necessities, and that's what you seek in order to escape reality, you are going to be swallowed into the abyss through comfort and ease and weakness in terms of contrast. Those things are not virtues. I live modest as a man. I think all of us should live modest and allow ourselves a little discomfort in order to remind ourselves that at any given fucking moment, if you do not remember what it means to fucking survive when the storms of life come, and look, you never know what the fuck is gonna fucking happen. And it's not to focus on those ideas, but it's never to forget where the fuck you have been. If you've been through the actual fucking rites like I have, everything that you manifest in terms of the alignment is nothing that you take for granted. It's nothing that you're going to allow yourself to focus on more than the actual practice of what it means to be truly spiritual. And in terms of the scientific, materialistic fucking paradigm that all of us are fucking drowning in, blinding us from the goddamn fucking truth. Again, it's order to attune yourself to one's truly functional work in terms of actual practice here that's going to get you there. Magic is never possible. It is only feasible for those who are willing to deal with conflict. And magic is defined by reality and by the magician's view of the very reality they are able to perceive. And if your perception is skewed, then magic is impossible. Magic is never possible. It is only feasible for those who are willing to deal with conflict. Making it clear and also recognizing this for yourself that magic is not a hobby. It's not a pastime that can be done on the side, but with a serious art of survival that can already bring a lot of potential within your own reach in order to uncover it, whether it's the first time or continued times thereafter. A reassessment of magical practice is therefore essential in context, based on the fact that any ritual or any other kind of quote-unquote magic action without the purpose of survival must always be useless at the same time. You're just falling into fantasy land bullshit. You're falling into escapism. You're off in other realms and la la land while the whole fucking world is going to fucking shit. And you don't even see the magical realm that you are in because you're conditioned to escape reality and not work with it in terms of connection with nature and the universe. And if magic does not serve to expand one's own domain, to manifest assets, resources, wealth, all of these different things that we need to live, move, and have our being in terms of making the earth our altar, mastering earth magic in context, let alone water magic, fire magic, air magic, and then the magic of the eternal spirit to so-called blood code essence. We as humans have already sufficiently trained and actually use our capacities mainly to be able to continue to manage and to be able to include more difficult factors in our administration strategies and avoidance strategies that keep us from the actual fucking doing of what is necessary and had not the slightest fucking hint of any idea of how to wield any sort of fucking magic what the fucksoever. And see, I do. It's not just theory. It's how the fuck I live. And it's how I want all of those that had taken initiation into the mystery school to live. And see, a lot of people out there, for the most part, are only masters at continuing to occupy and distract themselves with the belief in freedom, from which a magical point of view can only be discarded as another attrition-oriented and thus avoidant strategy. What the fuck is that? That is not the fundamentals and principles applied that's going to get you the results in terms of your actual templating as an individual. The matter is also fundamentally different how a large number of available options are actually fucking dealt with, because then it serves exclusively to revise a position that has already been taken and to switch to the next, which of course no longer focuses on being solution oriented, that actually contributes anything to the previous fucking problems and issues and all this different kind of shit. You are not solution oriented. You are obsessed with problems. You are obsessed with fucking excuses. You are obsessed with all of the distractions, let alone what the fuck they are doing. What the fuck are you doing? I've said this over and over and over and over again. People go on and on and on about what they're doing. I got enough evidence in the Black Earth Library to blow your fucking mind out the back of your fucking head in terms of what the fuck they are doing. And you don't even know what the fuck they're doing on the level yet. Some may do, but it's a question of what we are doing. And are we solution oriented in terms of our contribution to the current hour that we are in? What is the actual viable solution to any fucking problem? I don't care what your problems are. What's the solution? Let's focus on that, yeah? I want to focus on those things. What makes an individual formidable? What makes an individual realize their potential? And not to squander the opportunity and the gift of life that you have been given for fear of what the fuck all this other fucking bullshit means for you if you give it your focus and your energy and your attention more than the actual truth itself. People seem to think that they come into power, that is to influence, not by finally starting to do and ceasing to manage, but only through effortless standpoints where everything else is assumed to fall into fucking place. But it doesn't. It has nothing to do with actual power or whatever claims to power that Magick once held and actually still does hold, but exclusively without actually trusting oneself and embracing one's personal power of disposal even more through a certain degree of insecurity. Instead, all of it draws you deeper and deeper into the fucking abyss. And if the quote-unquote magician was once the holder of power, today, in terms of how it's approached, a knowledge of analogy or an administrator, as well as a master in the conversation about it and reorganization of that which has already been administered, but is not the actual wielder of it. And so we need to become the wielders of it so that we can inform the administration what needs to be fucking corrected in terms of upgrades and the reformation and context to the occult. We can go on and on and on about what has been said in the past. Okay, where the fuck are we taking things? That's what I'm interested in. That is what I want to bring to the table here. And I do, in terms of Black Earth Productions, I'm challenging the whole fucking gambit here. But in order to make the correlation so we can assess what the hell is really going on, and then we say to ourselves, okay, where are we going to take this now? How are you wielding magic over here? Do you even know what the fuck your template is? Do you even know thyself over here? Or why thyself? What is true power? What is actually at our disposal here to work with that's going to drive us even deeper in order to be strengthened again and again, in order to arrive at a magic that is not only concerned with managing strategies and approaches, but rather linearly bringing about the enforcement of one's own concerns that actually fucking matter. And survival fucking matters. The human races have survived countless fucking horrific fucking things. A mark on all of our belts in terms of the ancestors. But look at us now. Everything is handed on a silver fucking platter. And that is not how sacred knowledge operates. It puts you through the gauntlet. It puts you through the trials. It puts you through these things to see if you're for real. And once obtained, and once you actually embrace the matter of change, that the previously applied external techniques that were only touched upon in terms of theory, when you actually experience it, and the wineskin in terms of your beingness has been stretched to the capacity necessary, that's when the new wine pours in. That's when it's able to be contained. That's when the Hamrammir is able to be embraced without fucking killing your ass. Because if you touch that kind of power and you're overtly fucking toxic and fucked up, you will fucking die. It's not to be trifled with. Okay? When it comes to actual fundamentals, the questioning of human concepts, and thus also the turning away of what was previously referred to as quote-unquote being human, should have already caught the eye. What does it mean to be a magician, let alone shaman, in terms of my position? I never asked for more than half of this fucking shit. It landed on me and I had no other fucking choice. There's so many other things that I wanted to do with my life and so many other things that I pursued, and they did work up to a certain point, but not on this level. And in terms of my personal path work, as I went deeper and deeper into self-study, in context of all of it, it revealed all of these things. That I'm here to teach it because it's my moral obligation in terms of incarnation. Because I know that there are other people out there that are going to hear this, that there's other people out there that want to know, that there's other people out there that are ready to graduate this motherfucker. And this can't happen through any sort of workload in the quote-unquote mechanical sense, but only with ruthless contact with a merciless fucking reality which doesn't care about the survival of the magician. And see, these are all the unpleasant facts in terms of truth that are part of the order of the fucking day. And they cannot and should not, as it often is the case in these quote-unquote neo-aeonic practices that lead fucking nowhere, simply be defined away or defined in a positive light as support for the constant changing of one's own point of view, which is all over the fucking place. You don't have a philosophy that's actually sound. It's all over the place. You don't have a practice that actually pulls the alignment. You're all over the place. And that which only occurs as a result of one's own hesitancy and inhibitions is what pulls you into 20,000 different fucking directions. And without a standard and a banner and a strategy, you're not going to get results. It's going to be hearsay. And I love to get into theory. I love to get into concepts and ideas and assumptions about a lot of different things that we can all speculate upon, but what the fuck actually works? That is what I am more interested in, and is what you should be more interested in if you're gonna fucking survive, let alone come into a place of thriving and expansion, an actual fucking influence in terms of purpose. In this sense, one can say that the hesitancy in terms of these inhibitions are symptoms that only occur in those who use magic as an index system for all kinds of quote-unquote information and analogies about the topic, but it's not anything to do with actual fucking magic or knowing how to wield magic or getting results with actual fucking magic. You hear what I'm saying? Everyone else should have already come into the realization that consequence leads to magic, and that jumping back and forth here and there can only be evidence of unsolved problems in so many fucking areas. It's just all over the fucking place. This is to witness one's own escape measures and context. It's not solution oriented. And in addition, the constant changing of points of views creates a lot of wear and tear. And anyone who tries to always find and adopt different points of view in relation to specific topics that are important to them will find that this can be extremely fucking difficult. You think it's wise to be all over the place in terms of so many different fucking things instead of having an actual focus that is so zeroed in on, that is so efficient, that is so precise, that is so true and undeniable. It means nothing else than consumption of ideas and all of these other things are taking place that get you fucking nowhere. You are in the labyrinth of the 9 veils, as I have explained. You're caught in the fucking labyrinth. And you're only going to feel your body intensely where it fucking hurts. And you got to hurt in order to heal. And you got to heal in order to transcend. And you got to face this shit in order to transcend. And let go of a lot of fucking shit that is no longer fucking serving the advancement. And changing your point of view away from that which has revealed itself to be true, gone into speculation or second guessing otherwise. That's another factor that happens. That's another thing that fucking takes place. The things that have been revealed and that have been confirmed in terms of what you do know, you go into second guessing them out and go away from that boundary condition that keeps you fucking focused. And I'm not saying don't go explore other ideas or concepts or philosophies or any of that. I want to be at those tables as well. But what the fuck am I bringing to the actual table? Something that works, something that gets results. And you want to make correlations to that and expand that. Okay, fucking excellent. But anything contrary to that which actually gets results and alignment, it's irrelevant. And you can have your theories about it all you want. We can't necessarily always be changing our points of views on things. You got to get uncomfortable with the fact that a lot of the things that you're going to have to do in terms of actual practice go back to a lot of fucking boring shit. Do the fucking work. Do what is required. Don't allow yourself to be distracted and pulled into 20,000 different directions in terms of a lot of assumptions and theories that are no more fucking relevant than the fucking fantasy land bullshit that people go to in terms of escapism. This path work is about self-mastery. And it's then to change the position or standpoint until this is no longer possible, as you're going to continue to again and again return to that starting position. What does your foundation look like? And see, in reality, this is all about the linear maintenance of a point of view in the physical form and about bringing this through. This results in the phenomenon that can occur during meditations, which is very fucking important in order to get your state of mind in alignment. You got to clear your mind field on a daily basis, everybody. You can go into certain formulas, you can go into mantra, you can go into a lot of different things in terms of evocation and making declarations. But because the more quote unquote classical texts that are out there are not changed or upgraded in context to that which is relevant, when individuals reach the point of embracing the Hamrammir with the mystery school, you better have the proper fucking foundation. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you. And if afflicted with mystical powers, the Hamrammir in context assumes the mantra here, or the seat is not decisive. Ultimately, the individual has to decide for themselves whether this, once again, is the impertinence of expecting effort from themselves in terms of actually becoming a magician or becoming a student of the philosophy in terms of theory. That's the first step. But you can't hang out at that table if you're going to advance. And this is what I'm mainly getting at. Again, like I said, I'm at those tables. But when it comes to my personal practice, when it comes to my personal fucking life, there's a lot of things that I am not sharing public. At the same time, in terms of this segment, I'm letting out a little bit more to keep the momentum going, to let you know that there is more beyond anything that has been presented on the platform, let alone in terms of what has been taught with the mystery school. Do not think for one second that any of you out there have arrived in terms of what's going to be brought forth. You have to keep the mystery alive. You have to allow it to speak to you in terms of the possibility and probability of leaving the previously believed limitations of one's own performance behind so that you can go to the next fucking level. Never forgetting where you come from, but only at the confrontation with the effects of effective room control and other magical maneuvers made as individuals. Even as I have, it forces us to take a closer look at the content of such archaic, explosive power as the Hamrammir. In this sense, thunder, lightning, magic, in terms of Monia, means not only a low expenditure of time for the execution, but primarily also an effect to its cause, as to say, simultaneous with the execution and repeatedly similar to an electrical shock, the generation of full or partial physical paralysis in terms of striking the opposition, in terms of striking the fucking parasite. You paralyze that motherfucker. You paralyze that fucking shit. You need to generate it so full within your body politic on a multi-dimensional level that anything that comes to fuck with you that's not in alignment, boom, it gets fucking hit. And that's when you know. That's when you know if people are fucking real. That's when you know if you're dealing with other shit otherwise. It's a war. This is how we ward our field. This is how we throw our shield, not for fear, but in terms of our rights to protect our fucking lives in context. And the contact is stopping and bringing down of one or several people, or the exhaustion of a so-called seer's abilities, which I do have, and it is fucking exhausting as fuck. And this is why I have to throw the shields and the wards like I fucking do, because there is nothing out there, there is no gridwork of consciousness that I cannot fucking tap into in terms of my actual template. That's not a boast. You don't want this fucking gift, let alone the fucking responsibility that I've been given in context to it. Because if I didn't have this at this fucking level that I've come to, I'd be ripped and torn to fucking shreds by these lesser forces. But they don't got shit on our kind. They don't have shit on those that are relentless and more ruthless and more terrifying than they are. As I've said, all of the fear that has been projected, especially since March of 2023, this year, is their fear of us. It is their fear of us, and this is what you got to get through your head and into your fucking heart. It is their fear of us. It has nothing to do with us. That energy is not you. It's nothing to do with that which is springing forth the gates of true intelligence and context. What the fuck do we have to fear otherwise here? And all the manipulations of our abilities in terms of clairvoyance and light voyance and clair feeling or whatever the fuck. Okay, that's all mind control, motherfuckers. That's all mind control on your ass. And you think you're activating? No, you're being fucking manipulated by lesser fucking forces because you haven't tapped the gates of true intelligence otherwise to even know the goddamn fucking difference. You can't fuck with the true seer. And a true seer like myself is going to be bold as fuck and to say it right to your goddamn fucking faces. I'm speaking from actual fucking experience here. Anything that I have ever presented, anything that I've ever said comes from actual experience. And such a thing that has already been demonstrated for experimental purposes will continue to be driven deeper into the circles of those involved. I am not going to give up on this mission, and I am not going to give up on any of you out there listening to me right now. All of us have come way too fucking far at this point in terms of what is manifesting in the face of all this fucking trial. Things are going to the next levels. So when it comes to the Hamrammir, when it comes to Thunderbolt or lightning magic in terms, the name does come from a certain celestial phenomenon, but it may surprise the listener to learn that the phenomenon of the Thunderbolt itself has eluded its investigation to this day. Strictly speaking, we don't know much about what the fuck lightning actually is, except that it is electrical in nature. And you can take this to the mystery of Thunar. In context, you take it to the mystery of Odin. For Odin is the lightning. As it also may come as a surprise that the Thunderbolt can emanate from both the sky and the earth at the same time. And that's what happens when lightning strikes and meets itself in its wake along its path. The most important part of the Thunderbolt is simply that it almost completely eludes closer examination, not only in terms of its origin and properties. Almost everything we think we know is technically just a guesswork in terms of science, let alone scientism, which is not what we practice here in terms of the mystery school. It's not actually been determined why a thunderbolt actually occurs, but based upon current knowledge, there is an assumption that smaller water particles evaporate within a so-called cumulus cloud and freeze again in higher layers of the air. And in the course of resublimation, the particle expands further, and after a while the sleep particles become heavy enough to fall towards the earth against the updraft and thus first generate the electrical charge. And you as the inclined listener may inform yourself about these current assumptions if you're actually interested. But the same applies to magic as it is to the phenomenon of the Thunderbolt. It eludes the scientific causal structure and its methods of investigation right on up into these very moments. And it's unclear whether this will ever change or whether this is even possible. But if we are to understand the causal structure on magic in terms of the Hamrammir, and thus only make it more adapted to the human mind, we have already been able to catalog and categorize enough to at the very least observe it, but to know it, to be able to wield it, to be able to harness it, to be able to strike with it when necessary, not just in terms of defense, but manifestation. It would be most useful instead to finally get serious about magic and therefore treat it with all possible commitment. And see the Thunderbolt in terms of Monia, in terms of the Hamrammir, usually discharges completely unexpectedly. And it's the same with magic. It often happens when we least expect it, and at times when we don't even think of these things. I've experienced this many times, especially in terms of telekinesis. It just happened on its own. And how or why it happened, what was the cause for it? Obviously, I was on a certain frequency in terms of consciousness that was the cause point for it manifesting. Again, there's many different types of magic, but a lot of the meditative practices that are carried out for years with the individual are then suddenly met with their effect as they occur in the individual's life. That's when you start getting results. And see, it's not to force it, it's to allow it to come forth. You can't force wield something that you're not ready to hold the capacity to in terms of its cause point. You're only focused on the effect. You don't understand the cause to the effect, and that's why you fail in terms of your practice as a magician. That's why you fail in terms of your practice, in terms of mastering your thought and emotion. With every electrical charge of every single fucking thought that beats through the ever-living heart that is at the center of your chest, you have to understand the cause of consciousness itself. the sound song frequency of consciousness that is that spark, that ignition of life eternal, streaming through your blood and bones, streaming through your veins, streaming through the wand of fire that is there within your body politic in terms of the central nervous system, running right up and down your spinal column in terms of the force of the Jedi itself. And it's also to note that there's different forms that the Hamrammir can take, and absolutely all of them have to do with properties of magical practice in terms of an individual's templating. So again, as I've stated, the way it works for you is going to be different than the way that it works for me. It's going to be different than the way it works for another individual. And this is why actual initiation into the occult with this mystery school is necessary to get the proper knowledge and wisdom that you need in order to know how to not only go through the process integration, but to know what the cause point for things are in terms of what you're actually capable of, not living in the realm of effect in terms of simple observation and not embracing the actual mystery, approaching it in a way where you are allowing yourself the freedom to explore what the cause point is, to become the cause point. And it's not surprising that the Thunderbolt has always been considered a magical sigil of the magical power of the gods themselves. And whether or not it's been appropriated, it does go back to a certain fundamental and principle, the universal laws of metaphysics and the eternal axioms and how things actually work. And as is the case with magic, so is the Hamrammir. And to that, we're going to take another break. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. I'll be back again right after this. And we are back now. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. Touching upon things in terms of what the power of the Hamrammir entails. And now to continue. Most people in the world, they don't understand, let alone understand, the Hamrammir, its actual nature. But they categorize and catalog all of the effects, as I've been saying here, that there is more to this phenomenon that we witness in nature. Let alone with every beat of your heart, there is an electrical charge surging through your body politic. Every single beat of your ever-living heart is what sparks the Hamrammir to its full potential. And in order to indulge and embrace the true power, confronting this powerlessness and need for information management in terms of an overload of bullshit that is absolutely fucking irrelevant to how things actually fucking work, it ain't gonna get you there otherwise. Again, it comes down to an actual focus in terms of practice, knowing who you are, what your templating is, what you're capable of, knowing what your limitations are, and also know how to press the bar in order to expand your capacity in order to wield magic and manifestation correctly. And see, the Hamrammir in terms is a frightening phenomenon that even when observed in nature, it repeatedly causes individuals to panic. When lightning strikes and you hear the loud cracking boom echo across the skyline, it gets your attention, especially when it's close. And the Thunderbolt, in terms of magic in its original form of exerting power, was always a mysterious thing. We hear about the stories in terms of allegory, that the Jedi themselves were able to wield this power through their body politic. It's important to note that these things are absolutely possible, but it takes training and a lot of years in order to come to a certain level that, if left uncultivated, again, you're just talking about administration and theory. Here in terms, I'm talking about actual experience with it. I remember a particular incident when I walked up to an individual, and as I walked up to this man and I shook his hand, he literally electrically fucking shocked my ass. Okay? The power of what I experienced shooting through my body literally fucking paralyzed me. It dropped me to my fucking knees. And I remember hitting the fucking ground. Nobody else around me even fucking took notice of what the fuck happened, because they were so enamored by this fucking guy. They were so hypnotized by his prowess and fucking influence. But when I looked into this motherfucker's eyes, and he knew what was within me, that I was a fucking threat and not in any sort of disrespectful manner, I actually approached the man with respect. And when he threw this fucking energy into my fucking body, it crippled me to my fucking knees, and it fucking hurt. It really, really fucking hurt. It hurt bad. And I remember that what I got from that experience is that there's something else going on beyond the fucking surface of reality, which all goes back to the things that I've addressed on Black Earth Productions in terms of how these dark sorcerers operate. And do not think for a second that those that wield black magic in context do not have certain levels of knowledge when it comes to what I'm getting at here. But it's used for the purpose of malevolence, to bring harm to those that never did fucking anything to them. But again, we're in a spiritual war. We're dealing with spiritual fucking warfare. And I've always posed a threat to the fucking brotherhoods in context in my position, not only in this life, but previous incarnation. Going all the way back to the betrayals and my knowledge of Kemet, to the crux of the procession, the grand cycle, and all of these things that I've talked about on Black Earth Productions. And see, magic has its nightmares. Magic has its hell realms and all of these different things. In terms of the occult, that's why everyone's been conditioned to be afraid of it, instead of realizing there's something more that they are working to keep us from remembering. If you're wearing the blindfold and your soul spark is eclipsed in terms of how you process the gauge of your perception, that's all you're going to see. And you're going to be in fear of it. I don't want to touch that, the occult and all that different kind of stuff. That's the devil. That's fucking evil. You fucking idiots. No, it's not. That's a very, very small sliver of what the hell is really going on. There's a broader spectrum of proper knowledge and wisdom, again, that they do not want us to know, that they do not want us to tap into, especially when it comes to the Hamrammir. And what I experienced with this individual was not the Hamrammir, it was the power of Loki in context. And again, You have to keep things in context when it comes to parse, syntax, quantum, grammar with the English language. If you take things out of context on my fucking platform, everything's going to be skewed in terms of your perception of it. And that's not my issue. You are miseducated and you are in need of higher education and context, especially when it comes to communications. Loki is in control of all of those goddamn fucking organizations and has been since the Sumerian Draconian Empire. When trade deals took place with the old ones and the Svartalfar in context, when these motherfuckers were allowed to be partakers at a certain point here in Midgard. All of this is able to be observed in terms of my study and research when it comes to the mythos. And I've made the correlations with all of these other things that have been put out there in terms of our true history. It goes so much further back. And so do all of the fears in context with every respect, starting with the darkness that children fear, and where even adults that are meant to be mature feel insecure if they're not familiar with a certain environment. There's an unease. And one thing I've addressed lately, when you don't relax into the present and regrets of the past are coming up to cloud what is present, and fear of the unknown in terms of the future is coming up to cloud what is present, and you're not embracing what is present day to day, moment to moment. It only opens the door to insecurity. It only opens the door to potential terror within the mind from the limitations of the environment's contourability. And see, we can't be afraid of the unknown. We can no longer gain the confidence that is necessary to be able to behave accurately in certain respective environments by approaching things in this fashion. We have to go forth with confidence. We have to go dranga in context, which is fearlessness, especially in terms of wielding magic and embracing proper knowledge and wisdom when it comes to the occult, and not being afraid to, yes, look at the dark side of things in terms of observation, but knowing and embracing what is beyond that, knowing the fucking difference. And occult, again, simply means hidden knowledge or secret knowledge. Okay, secret knowledge to what? It's a great fucking question. Secret knowledge to what? And see, the possibility exists of, yes, encountering something terrifying from any direction at any given fucking time. You need to be aware of that in terms of this fucking practice. And incidentally, etymologically speaking, the word strecken, which translated terrify, comes from the jumping away from gaining a certain level of distance, instead of having the courage to embrace what is terrifying. Realize that you've been conditioned to fear that which you do not know. And that which you do not know, for whatever reason, is what you jump away from. You gain distance from the knowing. You run away from it, as many do, in terms of conditioning. And even though the working method made into quote-unquote folkloristic embellishments shows that it was once about being absolutely fucking merciless, okay? You think the wars that we have faced, let alone the last fucking century, are anything compared to anything from the ancient past? You have no fucking idea of the true occult history here. This is nothing. This is child's work. But it's not to negate what we have been made ignorant to, let alone from, when it comes to actual fucking magic. And the magician usually goes exactly in the direction that every other fucking person would like to avoid. That never worked for me as a practitioner in context. And this is why I created the mystery school that I did. Teach people some real shit, and you're not off in fucking fantasy land opening your back door up to these lesser fucking entities and shit like that. It brings you into the realm of myth. It brings you into the realm of gods and all of this phenomena, the universe and the galaxies and the stars and the planets and the trees and the flora and the fauna and the elementals, nature spirits, the devas, the fae, and those of us that are human that hold Alfarian codex within our template. It's all too clear. I can only ever speak for myself, ultimately. But we always get a certain form to the orientation mark for that which we are practicing in order to align ourselves and embrace the schrecken, that terror, in context. Why the fuck are you so afraid? The reason you're afraid is because you're conditioned against what true magic actually is. You've been domesticated like a fucking pet that has been chained to a fucking post that only has a certain circumference of experience. And in terms of that, pressed into tolerable forms merely through mental discretion, which is everything to do with dividing and splitting, the dividing and splitting of consciousness and the limitations that are imposed upon us, whether it's overtly thrust upon us like it was in fucking 2020, or it's done through auto-hypnotizing oneself or co-signing a narrative that limits you in terms of the expansion of your consciousness capacity, let alone your actual fucking experiences in life. We must allow ourselves the freedom to explore and embrace the unknown in order for the truth to reveal itself. So everything that remains to the thunderbolt, this lightning that is surging through your beingness as we speak right now, if you're not impressed by that, in terms of this gift that you have within that is operating on its own, that has an origin, it's a dangerous phenomenon. It's the haunting question that terrifies you. And the fact that you don't know the fucking answer terrifies you even more. Well, wouldn't you like to know? Because once you do know, you no longer are terrified. You become terrifying. You become formidable. You become unfuckable with. One can only therefore confidently speak of this kind of primal terror of mankind when it comes to the Hamrammir. Watch the fuck out. And the phenomenon should therefore not strike the magician, but rather become a model for the practitioner in its properties who is really, really willing to go further than what was previously usual or quote unquote appropriate in that pet variant of magical practice when you were chained to that fucking post and limited in context, and you think that you fucking arrived because you learned about Kabbalah or some other kind of fucking shit. That is nothing compared to what we have been cut off from, of what these motherfuckers have allowed you to come into. I'm talking about tapping the gates of true intelligence and accessing a mente itself. That's what I've been able to obtain. It's a bold statement, and I don't care if you believe me or not. I know what I've experienced, and I've done enough research and study in terms of my claims to be able to back up everything that I claim with the parchments and fragments that we have in the earth realm. All of the libraries and the fucking records here on earth were utterly fucking destroyed. The motherfuckers that rule over the consciousness, perception, and process of most fucking individuals rewrote history going all the way back to fucking Kemet. All you know about Kemet is from the 19th dynasty onward. You don't know anything of what happened before that. It's only alluded to. But I am here to remind people, in terms of the legacy to which I incarnated, my bloodline fucking lineage directly connected to it. That's why I know what I know. In terms of the actual goddamn fucking dynamic and all of this other fucking bullshit. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of this entire gambit at this point. I've been holding back the Hamrammir, what I know how to wield, because once I pull that fucker out and I really throw this shit, things happen. Why are we putting up with all of this bullshit here on Earth that has scorched the fucking birthright? You got your food, you got your clothes, you got your fucking shelter, you got everything that you need to, at the very least, survive physically speaking. But how are you surviving in terms of consciousness and your ability to expand beyond the limitations of what you've been conditioned to? The Hamrammir certainly brings something into view for the practitioner on closer inspection, and is therefore definitely worth looking at. It is at the same time not the absolute end goal or even the exhaustion of the skills inherent within it, let alone magic itself. This is very specific what I'm getting at here. And not only is the Hamrammir an unexplored and frightening phenomenon, it is the most frightening shit that I have ever embraced myself. It is the most terrifying fucking power, and it's absolutely what the Dark Ones fucking fear. They fear the Hamrammir, let alone the ones that can wield it. When you got the power of the fucking photon itself, whether literally, physically, or on a multidimensional level, it becomes very familiar and very fucking clear to everyone right away. And whatever occurs to that in context, the Hamrammir naturally also illuminates consciousness in terms of its surrounding. See, it's not just to make strikes, it's for illumination and lighting up the frequency field within an environment in order to cultivate integration of higher consciousness, awareness, perception to process, and action in life. It illuminates. The night side of magic, that's the mystery of the stars. That's the mystery of the galaxies. That's the mystery of the planetary gates. And all of this to what we see in the heavens is there within us, to the law of correspondence, as above, so below. Within one secret is a deeper secret. And within that secret, there's an even deeper secret. And within that secret, there's an even deeper secret. And it keeps on compelling you. The mystery compels. Holy fuck. It's nothing to do with actual combustion unless you're fucking hit. Being the cause point for that combustion. It's a ward. It's a shield. Meaning that no substance is burned to generate the necessary energy. Rather, one can say with a certain degree of probability, the electrical charge arises from the friction of individual particles that operate in terms of wielding the wand of fire on a multidimensional level within the body politic. And you can have extensions to this in terms of an actual wand and all of these different things, to stones and crystals and what we have upon our altars. It's like that over here in my domain. Everything has its role. Everything has its place. It's to say that with a certain degree of probability, when it comes to the positive and negative charge of the energy force that arises from the friction of individual particles on a multidimensional level, these aspects also play a specific role in terms of wielding magic. And because it's referred to operate and is geared towards its actual functionality and manifestation, it's to say here that friction without exhaustion or wear with the charging effect is the associated relationship between predator and prey when it comes to hyperdimensional fucking warfare. You're either going to be preyed upon in terms of the fucking parasite and all the fucking vampiric bullshit, or wielding the Hamrammir in terms of becoming an Ulfidnar puts you in a position to be more terrifying than these fucking vampires. And that goes back to the legend of the Lycan and vampires. Do you understand how old this actually is? It is aeons this phenomenon has been taking place. What they don't want us to remember is Varys Straga, the father of wolves, which was and still is the original symbol of Albion, reflected the white wolf at the feet of the fool, the true guide that the hero needs in terms of the quest that we are all taking in order to master this existence here being human. See, they want to turn you into a fucking vampire. They want you to betray your own fucking kind in context to traditions that have nothing to do with your people whatsoever. Nothing to do with the true roots and animist traditions that we were torn away from. And all of it has to be examined, to be brought into philosophical conversations where we can explore these things objectively speaking, and again, work to see the correlations that's examined, that's going to be a benefit to not only our beingness as humans here on Earth, but reveals the details that later on, in order to be able to be established, the comprehensibility of man's previous powers were at our fucking disposal. They were there. Again, this is what we've been torn away from. And it would be wrong to claim that the Hamrammir, in terms of magic, came into being out of nowhere. It didn't just come out of nowhere. In fact, it came into being with a clear suggestion from the ancestors, from the gods, from archetypal consciousness. And without assistance from these things that are all there within us, if we just know how to tap them, the Hamrammir is an actual art in and of itself, practically jumping into the ice cold water. Everything that is manifested physically in our known universe all came from water, including fire, including the Hamrammir. including our beingness in terms of our body politic. 75% of your body is water. The majority of your body politic is that conductor of this power that I'm talking about. But they want to poison the well. They want to poison the water. This is why the Norns weep in terms of their blood being siphoned, because you are not wielding the wand correctly. That's why you need training. That's why you need the proper foundation. If we're going to win this war on consciousness on the fucking level, as far as I'm concerned, it ain't going to happen otherwise until we remember more to actually get it going with one another on the level. It's going to bring forth manifestations that we have not yet seen happen since what happened did. Well, is that going to practically happen, Sethikus? How do you fucking think? By us doing the real work, by us being in communication, by us working together and actually wanting to fucking build this shit for fucking real. Instead of just talking about things and nothing fucking changes and our world continues to become worse and fucking worse and fucking worse day after day after fucking day. I didn't come here just to talk about things online. I created this platform in order to build a network to eventually have people come together. And that's what needs to happen in terms. It's what's already starting to happen. And this means learning and being teachable and learning about whatever forms of magic actually exist out there. Yes, I do rail against Kabbalah, but it doesn't mean I'm against people looking into it and eventually, hopefully, seeing it all for what the fuck it is, like I have, let alone other systems that are out there. You have to have a pretty eclectic scope of things to really be able to pull the correlations on the level. And it takes a certain amount of dedication and fortitude to want to know these things, because when the accumulation of proper knowledge and wisdom starts to really present itself, and in principle only differs after the administrative modalities in terms of theory and practice are acknowledged, what the fuck is actually useful? That is what is relevant. That is what's important. It obviously is something very special, not necessarily verifiable. The only way you're going to be able to verify something is if it's experienced, not given over to speculation or skepticism or whatever the fuck. That's not verifiable at all. That's just theory. That's speculation. That's assumption. I'm talking about actual experience, an experience where you get the results. Again, all of these things that I'm sharing with you are meant to be applied in terms of your practice with the circle of the magician. Take it back to that in terms of protocol teaching. Make it demonstratable unto yourselves in the sense of repeatability of the desired effect being the cause at any time under any fucking condition that you are dealing with out there. You have to start wielding and you have to start manifesting and you got to start fucking going for it. And again, you got to go Duranga in context, which could be considered real progress if you want to get serious about actual magical manifestation. And again, once the administrative modalities have been settled, it's usually a question of quote unquote using the knowledge in a practical form, an actual curriculum, a university of higher consciousness awareness that teaches the individuals the truth of how things actually work to pull the alignment of your actual destiny, your purpose, and all of these different things. What I presented in terms of the mystery school is the future of education in the world. I will continue to declare it. I will continue to say it, and I will continue to speak it forth because it is the actual truth. What is it that you do need to achieve when it comes to anything, let alone to breach the gates of this mystery school and sound the horn for those to whom it's meant? The dictates of the Hamrammir stays exactly where it belongs, untouched by those that are not willing to go through the rites to actually wield it, who should rather ask the question, what prevents me from achieving what I aspire to? And then leave it to decay without any effort at all. Why did you start in the first place? You didn't actually aspire to anything. That is not how we operate here. What do you have that prevents you from achieving what you aspire to? Want to bitch and complain about those that are actually doing this for fucking real and getting the fucking results? Go fuck yourself. You are some of the most unmagical creatures on the face of the entire fucking planet. across the entire earth, across the entire cosmos. Why? Because you bought the lie. You bought it, hook, line, and sinker. You co-signed the narrative. And then you want to try to put it out with those that are doing it for real? I swear to the gods, the paradox in terms of this reality, you guys, is something to behold once you really see it all for what it is. Because if you knew what was beyond, what is preventing you from achieving what you actually aspire to the true will force ignited the atrioventricular node. The guilt and shame that you would experience in terms of that should be so over goddamn fucking whelming that you would weep at the indifference that you have allowed yourself to embrace in terms of decay. It's an excuse not to rise and embrace the birthright to which you have actually incarnated here on Earth for. You simply leave it to decay without any effort. And then you wonder why you suffer. You wonder why. Because only here can it be about the change that makes the magician their own maker and no longer forces the individual to cling to external things in order to maintain this sense of security or orientation. Yes, we need certain things in order to survive. What did I say about magic? If it doesn't equate survival, it is not useful. But if you cling on to that in terms of survival only, you will never come into a place of thriving, and you will not be able to aspire forth the true will force. We get the spark, we get the flint going first to survive. Then what? That's when you have the opportunity to authentically remain with thyself, to know thyself, to have time to be able to explore these things without the need to be in survival mode. That's the point. And without taking the external evaluation seriously, or even allowing yourself to be thrown off course, taking certain fucking challenges, see what the fuck you actually got. You can't even take a fucking hit. You crumble under pressure in terms of any sort of true evaluation, ultimately coming from the determining value. What sort of value have you put on your own life? You are the only one that can do that. And a whole lot of other motherfuckers out there believe in me because I believe in myself. And I believe in all you out there that actually believe in yourselves as well. You see how it's flowing here? Those that don't, I'm looking at you like, what the fuck is your problem? Don't you see your potential? Don't you see what you could obtain in terms of actual aspiration? What would it mean to achieve wholeness in terms of healing for you? What would it mean to achieve and accomplish your goals and objectives instead of bitching and complaining, preventing you from achieving what you're meant to be aspiring to? That is what you have to strike against in terms of the Hamrammir. You have to strike against that shit and obliterate it. And strike after fucking strike that we make. Evaluation. It should be obvious that this determination can only be carried out by a qualified magician, by who we are as individuals. And who else should determine the value of our own magical deeds if not ourselves? And absolutely mercilessly in all commitment towards the magical concern. Realize that the dictates deal in an extremely unpleasant way with people who do not want to break out of the spiral that is devouring their very souls. Those are the cycles that we are here to break in terms of the procession. And this means that making an available method that the students of this mystery school could follow within a tightly contoured structure with a plan and method leads to a different type of stability in terms of what true power is. This type of teaching has to do with alternative methods, what is required that leads to what true power actually is. And it's not the type of power that is wielded by the dark ones, all of these fuckers. That is not what true power is. To face reality on the levels necessary in order to heal the ancestors when it comes to the god realms. You got to get the fuck up and you have to start embracing magic in all seriousness and with all passion and with absolute sobriety, facing every goddamn fucking failure that you have ever fucking experienced, made excuses for first, and all of this malignant shit that robs and veils your fucking ass otherwise. You got to wrestle against it. You got to win against this shit and gain leverage to a highly advantageous profile from failure after failure after failure until you achieve victory. From there, it's victory upon victory upon victory. And only those that fail and take it soberly can make progress. It's those that pretend or have ever come into contact with what actual magic is that have no chance of coming up against the necessary friction and conflict necessary becoming an actual goddamn fucking thunderbolt yourself with all of its explosive power in terms of manifestation. We must form the creator in the face of reality. And the magician, more than many others, is always in conflict with reality. We are in conflict with reality. Otherwise, employing a mass of blunting and distraction technologies and biometrics and all this fucking shit that's being rolled the fuck out. It is absolutely fucking insane when it comes to Divok AI, you guys. I'm telling you, if you have not got access to the Black Earth Library, you need to, at the very least, get full access to the Black Earth Library. It's all reference material to be worked with correctly and kept in fucking context to certain protocol in terms of with this mystery school. We are in a fucking war. The greatest fucking enemy of mankind. Incomparably worse than this manipulated biological conditioning that is happening and concealing the actual arrangements of our body politic in order to ascend here on Earth, in order to anchor the higher here, which didn't result from the actual will force, but an inactivity and aversion to conflict with fucking reality. You're afraid to confront reality for what the fuck it is. You all want to pretend like this shit isn't happening right now in our fucking world. Like you don't got some goddamn fucking responsibility towards it, at the very fucking least, to say something. Because if you don't, and if more people don't rise the fuck up, it is fucking over here. I've seen the trajectory of the ancient future. And again, you can take what the fuck I say. I have not been wrong in terms of anything that I presented on Black Earth Productions. And I don't present anything that is potentially going to take things off track. I'm very specific, prompted to do this segment in terms of what I'm presenting. Not even knowing what the fuck I was going to get into next, but boom, it just fucking hit me. The Hamrammir. Here we go. And if it's all about this leap of power, it is essential to state precisely and clearly what power you actually have to have over yourself here. This is hardly the case with most people, constrained by sensitivities and all this bullshit excuses. No, that is not meant by mind to body as an alternative. On the contrary, realizing that man is his body. People that say that you're not your fucking body is the stupidest goddamn theoretical fucking delusion that motherfuckers have embraced. You're not your fucking body. Your body doesn't matter. We'll just cut your fucking dick off, you fucking castrated piece of shit. It doesn't matter. It's not who you are. What the fuck? Then why are you within it if it's not a part of who you are? The technology that we need in order to transcend and anchor this shit like I'm talking about here. Wake the fuck up to reality, fuckers, and stop falling into escapist fucking bullshit on all of its metaphysical models that have to be course corrected in context. Look, I know that the other realms exist. I know that there is so much far beyond this physical realm, more than I can even put into words. But all of it is converging here on a multidimensional level. And that's what you don't realize. That's what you've been cut off from. And you have not been given the proper knowledge and wisdom necessary in order to anchor it here. You want to escape this reality, or you want to think it's some kind of fucking prison. Yeah, because you're fucking making it that. Conditioned to make it that. And all the news that you listen to, northeast, west, south, 23.4 degree skewed consciousness, motherfuckers. That's all you listen to. Is the propaganda and the fucking bullshit and all this disinformation that's out there to skew your perception to the idea that there's any other worldly realm that's out of reach or is there in the afterlife as a beacon of hope for human existence. All of it has to be fucking rejected. The hope lies to your existence here and now. Eternity is now. moment to fucking moment. And if certain things end here, then yes, your journey is going to continue. Death is a fucking illusion. It's not to negate anything that we've been given as a gift in order to experience life in this realm. In the sense that the fear of dying is ultimately arose from the delusion of alleged perfection. None of us are perfect here. It's not about being perfect. It's about being perfected as we progress. And if one were to subject to a more precise examination, the regard to their attitude towards death, which again to the initiate means transformation, it would be unmistakable that people that have an actual affinity for death through concepts of all of the otherworldly, beyond concepts and all this other fucking shit, they're afraid to live. They're afraid to embrace reality and the conflict that we are experiencing here on Earth to gain freedom, in order to gain the birthright, in order to embrace why we actually came here, which again was to be a partaker of the biospiritual regenesis, to sit at the high table of philosophy, where the great minds are able to explore these concepts and make the correlations and what's actually viable now. You can't even navigate your day-to-day thoughts, let alone that table. All the great minds that were able to achieve and come to that table paid the price to get there. They paid the price of not fitting in, going down that corridor like everybody else does to the fucking slaughterhouse in terms of consciousness. They would not allow it because they knew that there was something more, that there was some reason compelling them beyond these concepts of escapism. We are here to live, not to escape. And most just avoid confrontation and continue to indulge in non-coping, so then to further consolidate their disempowerment. People tend to classify the unknown as a quote-unquote danger and jump away again, frightened, instead of taking the word dangerous by the word. When's the last time you did something dangerous? When's the last time you did something that you were absolutely terrified of? Mankind got caught in his well-ordered and deceptive coordinate network, which everybody consistently relies on, the substitute remedies, which make them even less capable to be the cause of any sort of effect on their own accord, on some kind of secondary run on a fucking assembly line to be pumped out the other fucking side. Just another carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy, for which we would otherwise need this type of biometric technology to even fucking continue. Why? Because you don't have that fucking spark of inspiration otherwise. It's just like the ability to climb stairs decreases the more consistently one uses the goddamn fucking elevator. You want everything to be at ease. You don't want any sort of fucking challenge. You don't want any sort of fucking conflict at all, let alone embracing the conflict that you have within yourself and returning to the subject of death and therefore its inevitability. And the magician should further note that death is synonymous with every failure of human strategy to date, which in context has led to individuals becoming dead, as within, as without. And what one flees from is actually what one relates to in denial. You're running and you're fucking hiding from reality. You're running and hiding from yourselves. You're running and hiding from your potential. You're running and hiding from connection. You're running and hiding from ignition. That's truly what the true will force wants. But you've been conditioned to be in fear. And whatever you do to sedate are by no means able to eliminate the inner gnawing and tugging of this problem. On the contrary, all worlds and universes are converging here on a multidimensional level. Everything in terms of the three spirals of creation. Everything in terms of the true universal tree of life, which I will be taking things forward into in terms of level 3 thaumaturge with the mystery school in the future. What should be reassured is to further strengthen yourself, and the more you work to distract yourself from it so that you quote unquote try to avoid the problem, the Hamrammir draws the conclusion that the attempt to withdraw or flee is always an attempt, since this approach creates a stronger connection to the feared and, at most, escape strategies that can be refined or defined, is completely incompatible with what the magical claim what true power actually fucking is. We do not flee the trial. We do not flee the conflict. We do not flee or fear the obstacle or detriment or whatever fucking bullshit. No. At this point, it could also be said that escape does not actually exist, and it doesn't. It's only the illusion of it. Because every time you try to escape reality, you're snapped back. Reality's going to hit you in the fucking face every single time. And anyone who tries to flee has already been caught by the principle of being prey to it. When are you going to start becoming the cause point? Instead of, again, being caught in the realm of effects to become prey for the parasite. There can be even less escape from the inevitable, since it is a question of the inevitable. And one is only dealing with their own self-deception here, in context to distraction, misjudging the circumstances and the conditions in terms of their environment or what the condition of their state of mind is, their state of beingness is, and all of it is a magical desertion. It's been deserted. The desert shun. And no humans belong in the desert lands where everything's fucking dead. And in terms of the wild hunt, the sword of the great north has been ripping through this fucking reality field. And we are the hunters, buckers. We are not the hunted here. And we're hunting down this goddamn parasite like it ain't fucking shit. Up into the realms where only the impossible exists. We are attempting something that has never happened since what happened did. Subsumed by the general reality, consensus, trance bullshit, where all of the cheering of the causal structure can no longer result consecutively. The compulsive attempt to assume causality only means bridging the gap to general reality, basically adapting to it. You're adapting to the condition, and thus magic, let alone wielded sorcery, is not satisfied with just a general reality in terms of a consensus fucking trance. It can also set everything as a target for attack, and reality opposed the impossible. But we must be living the impossible fucking goal. We must be living the impossible fucking dream. What the fuck else is the point otherwise? To go for something that's just common? I didn't come here for just common. I came here for rare. I came here for something exceptional. I came for something exemplary. Even if it does not happen in this lifetime, I'll continue to come back because I chose to come here. I'm not some goddamn fucking victim living in a fucking prison. That's all bullshit. And until you realize it's fucking bullshit, then you're never going to ultimately obtain the birthright to which you incarnated. This has been made very clear in terms of the actual records of Amente. And a great deal of capacity released by acknowledging these things from every previous human strategy that has only led to doomed failure. All of this shit's gotta fucking die. And in facing this death specifically, there's only the possibility of generating an impulse that changes one's actions in a far-reaching way, able to shape them radically and differently. We can do this so much different. There's so many different ways that we could do this. But it takes work to change things and bring things forward that challenge the status quo. And to not confront these things is the ultimate fucking failure. And it's also the consequence which takes away the honor of producing a sober consideration otherwise. And in the next step of a sober consideration also produces the rejection of any attempts at sedation in the form of religious and metaphysical concepts of the hereafter, which are not even within your goddamn fucking reach where you stand. What about reaching for where you are, where you stand in terms of eternity, and actually struggle with the harsh reality that we're all facing here? Actually embrace the struggle, embrace the hardship. Men and women in this room have repeatedly decided in favor of the replacement. Men and women have repeatedly decided to go against what is sound, what is in alignment, and replaced actual truth to all this other fucking bullshit in order to spare themselves from reality. But in sparing themselves from reality has only led to the loss of any authentic skills, any authentic perception, any authentic fucking path work, anything authentic, period. Which is where all of your magic is being siphoned into the fucking goddamn abyss. Even in current magical practice, regardless of the management model, there needs to be the constant striving for the masters who could do this, that could actually wield it, that could actually wield the Hamrammir, that could actually wield magic in terms of manifestation otherwise. But such qualities are almost never achieved. And the reason why they're never achieved is because no one's actually willing to do what the fuck is required. And it is a commitment. It is a lifestyle. It's not a topic of conversation in terms of a philosophical discussion or fucking theory to consider. It's something that you live. It is lived. These are living arts and sciences in terms of the mystery school. These are living arts. We live them. Why could the old masters do things far beyond reason? It's because they lived it. They didn't just talk about it, they lived it. And they were able to because of their living conditions. Everything here in terms of this realm is predicated upon the condition for it. There is no such thing as unconditional love. Get that shit out your fucking head. The conditions for it need to be present in order for it to be cultivated. And that is what rational logic revealed in terms of wisdom when it comes to what love actually is. You have to live its condition. You have to feel into its condition in order for it to be experienced. And nothing can be known unless it's actually experienced to its condition, which is going to force us to cultivate skills far beyond those of ordinary humans, conditioned to this fucking bullshit, and is going to empower us to survive the times that we are in right now, the current sagas in terms of the ancient future. Survival needs to be secured. If it negates survival, then it's not a fucking benefit, because without survival, you're not coming to a place of thriving, period. And the human races are not going to fucking survive the times that we are in unless they pull their fucking heads out of their goddamn fucking asses. I got to be the one to fucking say this. God damn it. We haven't even crossed the threshold yet. Our kind have not even played their hand since what happened did in 2020 when these motherfuckers laid their hand down. Now they think they won. They think they fucking won. They think they fucking won, motherfuckers. What do you say? What do you say? Sorcery is always going to come into play when it comes to what we are post. And we have to become ruthless in terms of survival in context of what true magic is. If it's about survival and magic or sorcery is seen as a tool for that very purpose, then we need to put it within our banner as well in terms of an actual fucking standard to what we live. It is imperative that the magician examines his own survival conditions and adjusts his magic accordingly. In addition, with a claim to what true power actually is, it would also be appropriate to clarify what we need as individuals. What is it that you actually want? And when we are supplied with currency, ensuring that the flow of this happens in terms of Gebo. If you look around at the scenery, again, you will find a high degree of non-coping with the struggle of survival. And in this course, also the coping with social norms that set themselves against those that actually see value at the offer. When it comes to my time and my life, which I put absolute high value on, as should you. This is how the fuck we build our economy in the face of these motherfuckers. This is how we gain leverage, by making investments and supporting the works of those that are doing the great work. I make investments all the fucking time. I see value in something that somebody else is doing. Boom, I'm fucking on it. I'm making an investment. I see value in this. Let's go. It's also what I've done in terms of mentors that I've sought out, made the fucking investments. And people want to bitch and complain and moan about this. No, you're going against nature. Nature just doesn't freely give to us. She will rip and tear us to fucking shreds if we continue to violate cosmic law here in this realm. You think it's bad in terms of what we've been dealing with since 2020? If you align with nature, you will survive this fucking war. If you align with the universe, you will survive this fucking war. If you align with the higher force, you will survive this fucking war. If you align with your own soul, you will survive this goddamn fucking war. But if you align with that which opposes nature and reality and how things actually fucking work in terms of what is coming, you're going to be absolutely, totally eradicated. See it happens when it does, because I'm going to be pulling the alignments of the original timeline trajectory that we are anchoring here in terms of the ancient future. I'll take it to 2160. Well beyond anything that they can wrap their tiny little fucking brains around. The trajectory of the ancient future is intact. That is why we must not fear these times. Embrace them, because they will never be here again. Our time is now. This opportunity that we have, these moments, have fucking meaning. And with that, we're going to take another break. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. Temple of the White Dragon. I'll be right back after this break. we are back now. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. Touching upon things in terms of what the power of the Hamrammir entails. Now to continue. Look around at the scenery. You will find a high degree of non-coping in the world in terms of all these problems of the struggle for survival. And in this, of course, is also coping with the quote-unquote social norm. The social aspect itself and how to deal with it examined in a precise way. In other words, one could certainly claim that the social is inseparably fused with the magical. But this does not mean to understand the social in such a way that one owns dealings with it according to the general societal view, which all goes back to mind control, which all goes back to everything contrary to actual freedom within the culture of society attributes. Everything in terms of the infrastructure of what has been built around us is all about conformity. Conformity to the status quo, and how dare you fucking rise. And despite this, more and more individuals are realizing this certain principle, as we must all take personal responsibility to rise in our own right, knowing the difference. Again, this is how you become the cause point, rather than living in the realm of effect to the cause point of fucking slavery, rather than the social part of the magical enterprise, which is placed within the banner of this platform and also with the mystery school in terms of functionality and efficiency. And as an approximation, it is going to be ultra useful to look into the myths, to look into these matters, and realize what we actually have to work with here. And it's not some general story that some primitive race of humans just came up with around the fire. It's going to be conducive to look into what archetypes actually mean in terms of fundamentals and principles to how things actually work. In order to embody the archetype, in order to become the archetype. These were the examples that the ancestors revealed of how to be versus how not to be, and what the eternal consequences would be when it came to certain actions in terms of recourse and manifestation. It's not some arbitrary thing. Has always lived far away from society, as it is now. The whole phenomenon which has not gone away just because you've been conditioned to conform to a societal contract in terms of control. There are forces that do not want you to know the actual truth in terms of reality and how things actually work. And see, within that construct, you can only take contract to that which serves the functionality of it, and not the balancing of loads that also arise from the actual contract of incarnation in terms of your very soul, and what you are here to produce in terms of purpose and meaning in your life. And to this, at the same time, I'm not saying that certain functions within society are not to our benefit. Obviously they are, but it only focuses on the physical and temporal aspects of reality. And with all of the half-baked institutions in terms of the hierophants that are out there, is to see them all for what they are and take the hero's quest. Where the fool becomes the hermit of wisdom. And that's where you rise above the limitations of the veils that have been placed within your own mind. And it must be stated that all sorts of stresses of a psychological nature arise from the social contract that people are fundamentally conditioned to, and we must get rid of them in context. And getting rid of it is only possible by sharing these burdens with others. And getting rid of it is only possible by allowing ourselves to express the shit that we're actually going through and not just stuff it down and pretend like everything's fine when it's not. At the same time, you need to get away from projecting and pushing all of these things that you're dealing with as an individual onto other people, plaguing the victim and acting like a fucking bitch in context. But this is what happens. And the reason it happens, people do not know how to navigate consciousness. It's often said that you need someone to talk to, and rightly so. There's individuals that I need to pour out to when it comes to certain things. A wise individual is going to seek counsel. A wise person is going to have people to consult, to get another point of view, contrary to their own. Yet to that, the very first person that you need to confide in is with yourself unto the higher force, and go within and seek the answers within yourself. Then as without in order to get certain confirmations or things that may compel you to see past your limited points of view. This is how we learn, this is how we grow, and this is the result of one's own weakening of power contrary, of not being able to free oneself from these limitations. The limitations, if left unchecked, become a certain identity. And when that identity is challenged, again, this is when all the weeping and the gnashing of teeth come flying the fuck out in terms of psychological projections. Needing a substitute in the form of the interlocutor as a burden partner. Such fundamentals must first be determined and worked on, as this reassignment problem is ultimately inexorably linked to a social contract in general, in which one, as a victim, always bears the stamp of the prey. It keeps you in thrall to the labyrinth of veils that you cannot see past. And it is to state that it's potentially infinite in terms of the fractal virus and how it spins out on itself in terms of the wheel. This is the cosmic skip in the record in terms of the sound song of reality that we need to get back on track. And though those of us that have done the real work have been able to get a glimpse, at the very least, of what is beyond all of this fucking bullshit, it will compel you otherwise, as it reveals that there is so much more beyond this current paradigm that we have yet to remember into as individuals. It's the great remembering that is upon us. It's a great integration moment, is all of this stuff is coming up and flying out in order to be reviewed in terms of the procession of the grand cycle. And this is precisely why there's myths about magical beings who were able to work from a place of solitude, isolated away from the fucking insanity, and were able to move within the midst of confusion, yet free from carrying such burdens in terms of the social norm. And the whole of society is isolated away from people that are actually capable of what true magic actually is. These are fundamentals and principles in terms of the psyche and psychology. Know thyself. Know how you operate as an individual. Because again, your magic as an individual is unique. It's your gift that you bring onto the world, whether through art or music, a poetic utterance, something that you create or build. Again, we have to start at the very least with what is right in front of us, our connection to nature and the universe. For within nature, the entirety of existence is revealed. It's not to negate this realm. It's to remember why we are here. And to get connected back to that is a great effort because of our need to survive. And also how that need to survive is manipulated by the powers that be that assume that they are God here on earth and get to decide for everyone unwitted that does not know these things otherwise, how it's going to go. Leadership is absolutely fucking necessary. I think a certain standard and a banner is necessary. I think a certain code is necessary that we all must live by and adhere to, but also being able to be autonomous in terms of that decision and seeing authentically its benefit is key, because that's when it becomes real. That's when it becomes something that ignites and is alive within yourself. And in addition, it can be asserted with confidence that all other reasons put forward for certain social contracts merely have the character of a pretentious euphemism, especially those that act particularly social, often confuse the quality of these interactions with the quantity of actual wisdom to interaction. And having to deal with as many people as possible all the fucking time in one way or another says nothing about the actual course of these actions, and is also nothing to do with the effects that actual quality entails. And this is, again, why I work with people one-on-one, because it's about the quality of proper knowledge and wisdom that I'm able to convey with someone that actually wants to learn. And I'm not running out there and trying to convince anybody else that has their heads firmly up their fucking asses and doesn't give a shit about this. Okay, I went that route. I did that for years and was effective on a certain level, but has not been as effective as it's been working with all of you one-on-one, sharing your burdens, sharing your trials, but at the same time holding a boundary. I'm not going to allow you or anybody else to suck me into a goddamn fucking abyss. I have my own abysmal fucking bullshit to fucking deal with. And this is where we go into ourselves in terms of actual practice, in terms of fundamentals and principles applied, so that we do not bring all of this shit into the social contracts that we are making in terms of society, where most individuals have a trail of astral shit coming out their goddamn fucking backside because they're not cleaning house. They're ruled and controlled by the indiscretion that they have with their very soul. And see, this is what the Dark Ones count on. This is a part of how the divide and conquer ensues. However, for the person who is able to work with the Saturnian energy, who have been able to grasp its higher octave and alignment in terms of the Aquarian star, as the goat of wisdom looks forth into the heavens and realizes that all is within, there exists a highly, purely Saturnian ethic on the basis of understanding and comprehending, which does not forgive, it does not forget, as necessary to the path that is before you, so that the inner or higher maturity recognizes and evaluates itself. This is how we are inching forward to the integration process of the imperial self, who we truly are, the true will force, again, as I stated in the last segment. And as within the physical movement, the wear and tear orientation of people can also be proven without a doubt within every social construct, in the sense of loading, revealing, and shifting loads between the existing social contract. And again, this is why communication is important. And it's not just to let whatever fall out of your fucking skull, to spew. It's to speak forth from the heart, ignited, coming at things from a place of wisdom. And this is more or less the equivalent, the constant change of viewpoints. As I mentioned, if you're being pulled in 20,000 different directions and you're not able to navigate all of the pieces at table, then you're not going to be able to make the correlations and put the puzzle pieces together and get a broader view in terms of perception of the process. People will go to fucking war over their puzzle piece and not allow themselves to realize that there is more beyond the limited scope of what they have even come into and what's been revealed to them. This is absolutely how I operate here on my end. And there's still so much more that I have yet to pour out in terms of the platform with the Mystery School. I'm still just getting started in terms of what's going to be implemented on top of what has already been presented. I want you to look into these matters for yourself and do not take anyone's word for anything. Find out unto yourself, sacrifice unto yourself. And for the God's sake, come back to table and blow all of our minds with the insights that are revealed to you in terms of your personal pathwork. All of us are waiting. But if you're going to come at table and go to war with your fucking piece, you can go fuck yourself. That's not how this works here. One thing that you need to realize about the actual physical body is that it is the ultimate magical instrument. The Hamrammir declares that the body could actually be the most magical of instruments if it was not so manipulated that it constantly only responds to stimulus. Basically, one's body is considered separate from the quote-unquote I, but this is contrary to the actual fucking truth. And it's confirmed by the statement, quote-unquote, my body, implying that there is an I within this body. And the I, in terms of gematria, is the 9. It is the spindle. It is the wand of fire that pulls in the higher force of the Jedi itself. And this is what you are conditioned against, especially in terms of religion, the New Age movement, and a lot of this bullshit organized occultism that gets you to deny your actual fucking existence and beingness here on Earth. The misconception of declaring one's own body as quote-unquote property of another already prevents research into its actual capabilities. After all, if one has a body, which you all do, everything else is a matter for the quote-unquote I. In other words, the thinking apparatus and the I is at the mercy of the environment and shaped by it, reveals the fact that you are fucking controlled otherwise, that you're not actually in control of a goddamn fucking thing. And think about all the ways that they manipulate our physical body with all the poisons in the fucking food, what they're spraying in the fucking air, all the different frequencies that are being emitted. Do not think for a second that these things do not have an effect on your body politic, because they do. We are unbelievably saturated in the thralls of dark sorcery on a daily fucking basis. And if you do not become a magical motherfucker and know how to ward your field and see this body as an instrument, a magical instrument, in order to anchor the higher here, as within, as without, you're not making connection to anything that's not already there within yourself, but everything in terms of that stimulus that has pulled you out into the distractions has forced you against yourself in context. This is how they manipulate the spindle of the energy. As I've been teaching for so many years now, This is how they're able to manipulate the spindle of the energy force within your body politic. And if this quote-unquote I is based solely on a social imprint, it's to question its authenticity and the inauthenticity of the accumulation of externally induced patterns and strategies set against your mind, because you're not ruling the self, you're not governing your own mind, quickly catches the eye when viewed accordingly. That's what's blinding you. Not just the third eye in terms of the pineal gland, not just the third eye in terms of the pineal gland being calcified, but you have not ignited the first eye of Ra's tour in context, where you get access again to the information center that once was and still is and will forever be the alignment of the human races. And if this eye is to be acted outside of what pertains to a common human and proven ineffective in terms of an actual fucking strategy, it's to pull into question why. Why are certain things not working on the levels that they even say that they fucking do? It's because they're fucking lying to you. They're selling you a fiction. They're selling you a goddamn fucking fantasy. I'm not here to sell anyone anything. I'm here to declare the truth, and you decide for yourself whether or not I continue to get the results, and so do other people that do the actual fucking work. This is sacred knowledge that I'm sharing with you, everybody. And if one's not even willing to state, I am, it just goes to show why all of the high levels of sickness, disease, and ailments and mental disorders manifest in our fucking world. And if this goes hand in hand with recognizing that man gradually decays and is inevitably at the mercy of the above mentioned in terms of all of the problems that lead to not only being dead spiritually, but being dead physically speaking, then comes all the sedation through concepts of the hereafter, again, preventing dealing with one's own body politic, making the earth your altar, and then, of course, going from there in terms of planetary consciousness, elemental consciousness, the consciousness of existence. There is no separation from the higher here. It's, as I've said, we are actually in the highest realm, but because of the infrastructure and what you've been conditioned to, you've been blinded to that in terms of reality. The things that I say are going to sound insane to the person that cannot see. And I'm okay with that because I know the fucking difference. I don't give a fuck because I've been able to pierce the veils otherwise. And I know what it's like to be on the other side of the equation with that burning thorn in your chest trying to get your goddamn fucking attention. And since this is presented as a kind of temporary solution until one enters another world, mentally or spiritually, if you're not able to anchor it here in terms of reality, it is absolutely fucking useless. All of these pseudo-spiritual practices. And again, it's not to negate the other realms. I know that they exist. There is no grid work of consciousness that I cannot access, but I'm working to anchor it here. This is what true shamanism is all about. Not escapism into another realm, because you're not willing to conflict with the actual fucking reality that is pressed up the consciousness capacity of mankind, as we as individuals need to take responsibility in terms of this. If we're going to come into a new renaissance, which we are meant to, then we're going to have to make the correlations on an even greater level. But it takes a great mind in order to do that. It takes unbelievable focus and the developing of skills beyond what you have been conditioned to in order to be a slave. Did you know that Rockefeller himself designed the education system in order to produce efficient workers for the goddamn fucking machine? This is coming from his own fucking mouth. They don't want a society of people that can actually fucking think, that can be in their own creative capacity. No, they want efficient slaves that they can control in order to oil the blood, our essence, raked out into their grid works of consciousness. And it's all set up for you. You don't even have to fucking think. You just go down the assembly line of life, fucking stamped and approved, and then you're thrown into a fucking goddamn fucking box to be shipped, used, and discarded. What the fuck kind of destiny is that? I know what the consequence and end result of that is, and it never rested well with my soul whatsoever. And it never made fucking sense to me why people just go with it. But I, as others, are among the anomaly here that is challenging the status quo. and there's obviously nothing behind it but a grand deception and misconception, as well as the avoidance of dealing with oneself in the here and now. Another avoidance strategy when it comes to actually performing magic could be done from the point of view of direct access to reality and an attack on it. And we see that all across the fucking board. Cancel culture and all this other fucking bullshit. These people are fucktarded morons. A lot of them have actually been taken over by the parasite in terms of consciousness, this Wetiko shit that even the ancients knew about and warned about. Of course, though, the problem of acting in the here and now, if this is not confronted, one's own powerlessness is going to have no mercy here. And we have to be merciless, standing our ground against it by rising up. There is never a here and now for people. It's all of this shit to the fucking past. It's all of these speculations to the fucking future. You're not actually present in terms of reality. Take a moment right now and just take in a deep breath. That is how you train yourself to be present. For within the in-breath and out-breath, the in-between point, between the inhale and exhale, is where you access eternity. And you're not being pulled into 20,000 different fucking directions. You are clear and you are focused, and you have a 360-degree view in terms of the gauge of your perception. It's very difficult to get to this place. And I myself am still working to master this on even greater levels in terms of my own personal practice. But as long as people are reacting to all of the fucking stimulus that they are being bombarded with and exhausted with, strictly speaking, this is a temporal problem that has to be fucking addressed. Namely, the decoupling from the stimulus reaction behavior and attacking one's own possibilities has to be fucking warded. And every listener should be familiar with the fact that this is a problem of the nervous system, which must first transpoint every stimulus to the brain, where the stimulus must then be processed accordingly. Only then does a reaction happen. This is how nerve induction is wielded against you in terms of dark sorcery, which eventually, if left unchecked, will leave you wounded, jaded, isolated, and ineffective. And see, the path of sensations can therefore by no means lead to the here and now. Again, it's pulling you into 20,000 different fucking directions, especially online. And that's why you need to take time off this motherfucker and actually go do the real work, and then come back with insight and not be pulled and distracted, which is also a part of this cherished avoidance programming that has to be discarded in terms of the Hamrammir and the progression rate of our kind here on Earth. We use this technology the right fucking way, to the contradictions that have set themselves against the original fucking timeline. And because the past cannot be changed, the assumption that the past shapes the present turns out to be absolutely unfounded on even closer inspections once you realize the actual truth. Yes, what has led up to the present moment, that which has been woven in terms of the weird, is obvious, and we can observe it. And if we don't learn from the ancestors or those that have gone before us, the great minds of the past, and gain insight in terms of our present moments and what we're actually capable of to take things to the next level, what an awesome opportunity we actually have here. And since it's open to everyone to act against the tendency of what has already happened so that it does not fucking repeat, that is where you start to take your power back in context to the alignment. In fact, this can only be mastered embracing the Hamrammir to its actual fucking power. It's the charge, contrary to the feeling, contrary to the stimulus, that has pulled you into subordination and thus robbed you of your actual fucking power and pulled you ostensibly into an inversion. And this in itself is only the beginning and does not already lead to a potential exhaustion of the fucking problem. It's just the beginning point where you start to actually do this. And the fact that being in the present moment to moment, corporally speaking, puts an individual into being absolutely capable of performing something magical You have to be in the moment. You have to be in focus. And again, to the sober statement that precisely reveals that this stimulus-induced trance culture that everyone has been conditioned to has attached themselves to the ineffective preventing measures that only lead to a bullshit attitude of feeling helpless otherwise. Again, the recourse is going to be made, which can actually be followed and adhered to in terms of an actual path work. And in this way, before the magical excursion into all of the unbelievable things begin, once you have actually built up your psychic immunity, which is absolutely necessary in terms building a bridge in terms of reality, all of this is necessary in order to avoid contact with lesser forces that will ostensibly fuck you up if you're doing the wrong things, and are going to amplify and exaggerate the actual fucking issues and the problems and all the fucking hangups that you're dealing with, and set themselves against you actually overcoming. You got to understand and know that these forces and these beings and these fucking goddamn factions want to steal your fucking magic. And this is where the current practice of magic comes into play. And all the bullshit in context of the brotherhoods, all the bullshit in context to the sisterhoods that has got us fucking nowhere except what is manifested in terms of the lockdown equation. You think you know the goddamn fucking game, but you still don't know on the level necessary in order to see it. And all the contradictions that come into play in terms of the true occult history, accessed via a mente, versus the parchments that are out there in the world that we don't even know ultimately where they actually fucking come from. You're still dealing in surfaces and can make the correlation because you're not doing the real work to access the actual temple of the gold of consciousness itself. That's the key. And all the various attempts otherwise are justified, but they're also juxtaposed to the actual truth. Working with a talisman or a sigil is supposed to have the effect of winning a certain thing, of manifesting a certain thing. And it should be noted that there is no connection between the actual sigil or talisman manifested in order to be denied or confirmed. It's what we do in order to focus what we take action on in terms of our intention. It's there to remind you. It doesn't actually hold any power. What holds power is the actions you take in life. What holds power is the thoughts that you have. What holds power is the gauge of your perception to process, to action. And once you realize that you are the ritual, everything in terms of ceremony falls to the fucking wayside. You are the crystal. You are the stone. You are the wand. You are the sword. You are the pentacle. You are the cup. All this within. And it must only be clearly emphasized that the attempts to justify any sort of magical work in order to obtain actual success, it's the rituals that you create yourself that are going to serve and defend the liability here in terms. This is what it means to take responsibility. Knowing how to work with your templating, knowing how to work with these arts and sciences correctly, learning about the fundamentals and principles that need to be applied to your actual path work in order to become a magician, and accepting the magical work in terms of soberly approaching it. And that's how people are raked the fuck out into all of this other fucking bullshit, because no one ever told you or taught you how to tap the power that is already there within your template. And any failures that we experience, they have to be used and learned from in order to actually become effective. Effectiveness also means taking apart exactly what you did and subjecting the individual components to a precise review. This is what the air magicians do. They look at all the gears and the wires. They look at the schematic. How does it actually fucking work? You break it apart, put it back together again and again, just like a mechanic. What are the mechanics of magic? How does it actually work? And again, I'm not speaking about any sort of sleight of hand or stage magic in context. I'm talking about the real. This is not for your entertainment. This is for your life. This is for your beingness. And this approach must lead to discarding any sort of beliefs in control, no matter how small or big they may be, that have not been verified by scrutiny. You've got to scrutinize the fuck out of shit. I scrutinize myself all the time. There's no one out there on earth that can even touch the inner scrutiny that I put myself through. You think you can do worse than me? Go fuck yourself. You have no idea who you're dealing with. And I'm 20,000 steps ahead of this shit. As difficult as it can be, it's important to remember that one can never complete reality and give preference to its own sobriety over a particular deception. And at the same time, as a byproduct, any uncertainty, if erased, if through examination of the individual factors, have been carried out to one's satisfaction. The question of the effective efficiency of any magical practice is thus resolved once for all or dealt with in the long term. So then exhausted. And the Hamrammir, in terms of processing ice magic, which all goes back to Scorpio, the water magician, would be a misjudgment of the facts if ice itself is already modification and therefore a continuation of certain influences. Again, look at all the water in the world, especially in terms of the poles, where everything has been frozen over, where everything has been put into stasis. The true fire of fire water cannot be released otherwise. And the power of the Hamrammir lies dormant. Again, this is one of the absolute most powerful, if not the most powerful energy I've ever fucking experienced next to the higher force. It's a terrifying force, the Hamrammir. And it's also terrifying in its violence in terms of co-creation, to eradicate evil in every parasitic, oppressive, and inverted way that can pull practitioners into the idea that they are less than, so they need to call upon something outside of themselves. When the Hamrammir streamlines the templating, it rips and tears through fucking everything in order to clear you out, in order to clear your field, in order to protect the integrity of your morphogenetic and auric fields. And if you're dealing with any sort of conflict, quote unquote, dark sorcery or magical attacks that can be coming at you, in order to exhaust an attack, the magician that aspires to launch can't describe anything that they're actually about to fucking do. Clashing excessively leads to conflict, and again, we are in conflict with reality in terms of the miasma. That's the conflict, contrary to nature. It contradicts everything that we are actually meant to be connected to otherwise. And you being connected to that is how they steal your magic. It's how they steal your essence. It's how they siphon your genetics and consciousness into their fucking gridworks to fuel line the goddamn fucking machine. And now the machine is getting a goddamn upgrade, motherfuckers. And if you don't catch this shit, what do you think the outcome is going to be? I can go on and on about the AI timeline, but that is not my fucking focus. My focus is the original timeline. My focus is speaking upon and addressing these things and focusing on these things. Being aware, well aware, even more aware than most fucking people out there, what we're actually fucking up against. In the end, before it's all said and done, I've seen the outcome. And that's why I don't fear the times that we are in. We should get excited as fuck knowing the fucking difference, because we're closer than we have ever fucking been. All of these aeons, no matter how it looks on the surface, no matter how it looks in the realm of effects, in terms of its contrast. And all the shit that is going on to the agendas to enslave the human race is even fucking harder and get fucking worse. In fact, that's the goddamn fucking plan if you don't wake the fuck up. Never negate your survival instinct or the feelings that compel you in order to actually survive potentially in nature for a while if necessary. And there you will find that nature has been impersonated. It's an impersonation. It's a contradiction in terms of the miasma. And it didn't just come out of thin air. All of this to who the fuck we are, the infrastructure that has been built around us for thousands of fucking years, got its example from nature in the first place. But in terms of how far everything has contradicted itself, even the architecture of what we're surrounded by triangulates the reality field so unbelievably fucking hard in terms of the psyche, so unbelievably hard in terms of nerve induction. You need to understand that nature is a merciless place. At the same time, it's not, if you're connected to it. But the high levels of disconnect are also why people are fucking dying. They're dying because they're so ostensibly disconnected. I live in the national forest where I am now, just on the outskirts of society, just like the shamans lived. I live this shit. And it's not intended to be a justification for any sort of environmentally harmful behavior. I realize what the fuck is going on in cities. And it ain't so bad where I'm at, but it's still happening. It's almost as if none of us can fucking escape this shit unless you go actually live on a goddamn fucking mountain somewhere. But it's not to escape reality. Are people living in Universe 25? Yeah, you're goddamn fucking right they are. But there has to be a corridor of alignment within the confines of that infrastructure carved the fuck out in terms of your fucking life in order to get clear, in order to make connection again and anchor and ground what is necessary and build what we are here to build. As hard as it is, with what resources we have at our disposal, you work with what you got. And that's the key. It's not to focus on what you don't have. It's to focus on what you do have. Okay, what are you going to do with it? What sort of investments do you want to make that are going to expand the leverage, that are going to manifest the leverage necessary? And concepts such as fate, that we are in control of at any given fucking moment and can change at any given time, any given fucking moment. The reason the Norns weep for what they weave, ultimately it's because people do not understand why they are weaving what they are. That's the weird, that's the past. That's what's come before the present moment that you are experiencing right now. And in order to wield magic correctly, you got to get control of the spindle of the energy force. Again, like I've stated, you're not going to be able to wield the Hamrammir otherwise. You're not going to be able to manifest an alignment otherwise. Once you get past the psychic fucking warfare and all this hyperdimensional fucking bullshit, and by turning the body into an instrument of magical influence means not only recognizing the I within the ship, but then entertaining the practical experimental phases that you have to go through in terms of getting actual experience. And you're going to fuck up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall flat on your fucking face. But that's a part of learning. When did it become conducive to not go through this process that pulls you through the gauntlet? You will go through that gauntlet. You will go through that trial. You will go through whatever the fuck it takes to potentially pull the alignment of your actual fucking destiny. You're going to have to work really, really fucking hard at it. And it's something that you're going to have to do every single day and be dedicated and purposeful and work effectively, just as you did when you got that inspiration, and do not allow that fire to go out. You have to turn the body politic into an instrument of magical influence by recognizing that you exist. You are here. What an amazing experience. All of these things that we have been through in this lifetime. There should be no separation between theory and practice. No separation. None. This has to be lived. And according to this, one could assume that one's own reach can also be expanded upon. This then, as the saying goes, is if by magic, attempting to connect, always suggests that the mystery remains a mystery. It is okay to be compelled by it. I'm compelled by it on a daily basis. Awestruck when the woad hits me, going into a place of observation, looking back on the path, everything that has led up to these present moments even now. If I dissolve my inner resistance, I also dissolve the resistance that arises in others, and thus take complete control of my beingness. The connection between forcing versus force, or to force, becomes clear. And wherever obvious coercion is exercised, resistance generated. You must dissolve your inner resistance to be in control of you. You are not going to know how to wield magic correctly otherwise. The common method of breaking, the magician then gains the control necessary to assert the true will force through the body politic to be fully capable of actually doing this. And it's not to cross certain boundaries. And if the magician wants to deal with an actual battle or a fucking quarrel, they got to think about the effortless breaking of these zones in order to get to the goddamn fucking point. And this has nothing to do with overstepping actual healthy boundaries. It's tearing down goddamn fucking prison bars and breaking off fucking shackles and all this other fucking bullshit that has imprisoned motherfuckers in denial. We're going to kick in and destroy these fucking prison bars. But what do people do? Please put them back on me. I like my chains. I like my fucking oppression. I like this because it's who I am. You want to talk about the dissolution of an infrastructure and context to consciousness and all of the statistics that reveal why this has happened? Those of us that are doing the real work, we are giving you the goddamn fucking keys to break open the goddamn prison gates. But just like any creature that has been institutionalized, you're afraid of what is beyond the prison bars, thinking that they are there to protect you. And that is how the illusion of this infrastructure operates. It's designed to give you the illusion that it's there to fucking protect you. No, it's there to imprison you and keep you from going out into the wilds to make connection again and discover what the fuck is actually going on. So you can eventually turn around and go, holy fuck, I was in a goddamn fucking prison. It's what the fuck you were born into, not knowing the difference, because your parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents didn't fucking get it. And then people among my generation, one before mine and one after, and the one after that, they're not going to get all of us. But they're really, really working to clamp the goddamn fucking lockdown even fucking harder. And what I see happening with the goddamn fucking youth, what the fuck? We cannot ultimately remain attached to any of this fucking shit. We have to stay focused. And it's obvious that the same process that takes place with those that are becoming actual magicians here. You have to deal with your own inner resistance and learn to dissolve it skillfully to the gates of freedom that have been kicked open for you. Why is the grand question at this goddamn fucking point. Have so many fucking people not seen it? I've already crossed the threshold. But this too is what you're going to have to carve for yourself. That's the key. That's the key right there. In order to perform the execution of what has been said, confirms the following. If I dissolve my inner resistance, I also dissolve the resistance that arises from the other person and thus take control of myself. Know thyself, and you will know nature and the universe, the higher force, and the gods in terms of ancestors working to get your attention still at this point. And all the battles and the quarrels that we deal with in terms of a certain metaphysical gravity is authentic love working to get our attention as the main cause of resistance within the human body. It's when you start to stiffen up. Oh my God. It's when you start to stiffen up. And this can happen when the nervous system is being overloaded with a certain level of stimulus that is not organic. It's all of this fucking shit that we're up against. And we are responsible also for the wear and tear on our own bodies on a multidimensional level. And anytime there's resistance, it means that there's a fight going on. A fight, there's a quarrel that can only exist between two or more parties, whether within yourself or another individual, and doesn't usually provide any advantages in terms of any sort of practice, but rather consumes resources. That's what war is designed. It's designed to devour life. It devours resources. It's a waste of fucking time. All of this goddamn fucking bullshit that you're in resistance to because you're not in control of yourself is the cause point for depletion that also occurs when a dispute is eventually going to be decided. The depletion of resources caused by skirmishes and quarrels can only be counteracted or prevented by not allowing resistance. You don't resist any goddamn fucking conflict. Anytime you resist it, I guarantee you're going to be fucking depleted. It's going to fucking drain you. When do we stop resisting? Anytime you start to resist anything in terms of actual experience, you're getting sucked the fuck dry. And this can usually only be done by giving up, and accordingly does not lead to the linear assertion of one's own interests. But it's not to say that the interests of a toxic individual are a good thing. Obviously fucking not. Is it the interest of the true will? Or is it the interest of your goddamn fucking programming? Everything is a paradox here in terms of this realm. And one's own interest can only be enforced appropriately if there's no obvious hostile clash that would necessarily generate resistance in terms of a particular situation. And see, all of this merely places everything into a hidden framework that is not even apparent to the ones involved in it. And due to this invisibility, They don't even know that there is a conflict that they are resisting, that they are running from, that they're doing everything they can to avoid. And that's where you become prey, motherfucker. Do you understand? We need to have a certain level of resistance to be able to determine any of this at all. But it's resistance that's in alignment and letting go of resistance in terms of the lie, in terms of the denial, in terms of the self-pity and the victim mentality fucking bullshit. And see, what a lot of people are doing out there is avoiding the precision. A lot of this overt criticism that is coming out usually only means that there's a rejection of the actual fucking facts. Even if its theoretical substructure specifies something completely different, namely precise examination. The person who arrives with a general lack of understanding in terms of how they approach anything that I'm even sharing or anything else out there, expressed with statements as, I don't understand. I can't do that. This is too much. This is too intense. This doesn't make any sense. This is fucking bullshit. This is fucking insane. And on it goes, right? Blocks the precise treatment of a topic, not only for a short time, but mostly even permanently. People aren't even open to considering anything beyond the gauge of their limited perception, avoiding the precision. And instead of focusing their attention on the actual topic that's being discussed, they go off on a fucking tangent and project and go into things that have nothing to do with what's actually being discussed. And again, criticism, rejection of actual fucking truth itself takes place. Everything that I just mentioned. I don't understand that, or I can't do that. These are all blocks. And by avoiding this precision means an exhaustion attack on the world can never even remotely come into view and be seen for what the fuck it is. People can't even see clearly in terms of precision what is actually taking place, even going all the way back to 9/11, going back to World War II, let alone going into the occult history in terms of all of the fucking things that have led up to the present fucking moment. This is just too much. I can't take it. Well, too fucking bad, because this is reality and you are forever in conflict with reality. You won't let go in order to see clear the lie, first of all, for what the fuck it is. Second of all, in order to embrace the truth and go through the integration process. And the only precision that lies in something is that which gives it quality. It's the quality of truth. In other words, effort is actually required. Again, you got to get a passion for this, you guys. You got to get on fire for these things. The secrets of the universe are not just handed like some bubblegum wrap in a fucking gas station. No, this is of high value, the things that I'm sharing with you. Extremely high value. And I value the truth enough to be able to share it with you, because this is my passion. I love doing this. I love pouring out. It's why I'm here. And only the magician can stay exactly where he is already in the present, namely in balancing within different spectrums of knowledge, all of these different philosophies and theories and all of these awesome things that we're able to explore, to apply the remote access when new knowledge is integrated into them, when new knowledge is presented and has to be integrated otherwise. We're always going to be exploring, and that's the beautiful thing. But without the proper foundation, it becomes very difficult to navigate. Again, know thyself, and you will know the universe, the gods, and will come to know the higher force in terms. This segment was to the power of the Hamrammir, what it represents in terms of its fundamental and principle, applied the practitioner. As for those that have been initiated into the mystery school at the level of Ulfidnor. If anybody out there is interested in the mystery school, send me an email at blackearthproductions with an S at hotmail.com. Go to the website at blackearthproductions.com, click on the services page, go through everything, and get a hold of me directly in terms of what you would like to line out. The products page is back up, and a lot more is going to be implemented. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, you guys, and a lot more is going to be coming forth. A lot more is going to be getting built going into the latter part of this year, going into 2024. Forever onward, forever forward. We carry forth the vision in terms of the legacy, and it's the legacy that this mystery school represents, and also what this platform supports in terms of our birthright as humans, to live, move, and have our being free to explore and collaborate and co-create together a better world, not only unto ourselves, but with one another. This is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science, Temple of the White Dragon. I look forward to corresponding. There's a lot more I need to pour out. There's a lot more that I want to share with you in terms of everything. Look forward to meeting you and speaking with you soon. Hails!